with Galen motherfucking Diston.
From the green room.
With Galen Diston.
Hey motherfuckers, welcome to From the Green Room, episode 6, hosted by me, Galen Diston of the band Pickwick. Today I had the pleasure of speaking to Kathleen Tarrant, writer for The Stranger. I met Kathleen kind of as the Sound on the Sound was coming up, putting, the blog in Seattle, putting out video content, writing, reviews, record reviews, and live reviews. And Kathleen started out as a writer for that, but now she's writer for The Stranger, which is Seattle's alt-weekly, kind of has its finger on the pulse of the arts of the city. And she wrote, a long-form piece on how the church, Mars Hill, here in Seattle, it's kind of rise and fall, and how it was incestuously, interconnected with Seattle's music and Christian music, whether it was labeled as Christian or not. So, pretty interesting stuff. I don't know if that's everybody's cup of tea, but it's pretty important in terms of Seattle music history, and she was able to capture kind of the totality of it in that piece. So if you have access to The Stranger online, if you have access to the internet, who doesn't have access to the internet? I mean, I don't want to be a dick, but, How'd you get this podcast? You don't have access to the internet. You're amazing. You're a genius. You're hired. Yeah, so anyway, I've known Kathleen for a while. She's a good friend, very interesting. We had a good time talking to each other. Probably most interesting thing that she was able to put together was complacency, that you may have seen around Mars Hill, just sort of how there was thinly veiled bigotry, homophobia, sexism from the pulpit. She relates that in an interesting way to sort of how Seattle's tech culture is sort of taking over the city and potentially squeezing out all other forms of life, and how complacency towards that transition may be a similar thing. So I thought that was pretty interesting, but maybe you don't think that, but let us know. Here it is.
Kathleen.
What?
Do you have a nickname? Does anybody call you anything?
I was, everyone in my life called me Kat until I moved to Seattle.
So
and then I was like, I'm 23. I'm an adult now. Full name, 2 syllables forever.
What was that transformation like for you?
It was fine. I still have friends who call me Kat. Are we recording right now?
No.
Yeah, we are.
Totally are. Nice.
There's water right behind you in front of that clay house.
Are you saying that you can hear my spit too much?
No, you'll probably be able to hear more of it once you drink.
Good job.
Thank you. I've podcasted before.
You have?
Just once. I've
never listened to it. Tell me.
I didn't podcast. I was on KUOW. Is that the one?
Wow, that's so exciting.
It was so exciting. Obviously exciting because no one listened to it.
What was it?
It was. Did you guys remember I did that Stranger piece on Christian music in Seattle?
Yes, which is one of the things I'd like to talk to you about.
Yeah, so they talked to me about that a couple months after it came out.
Who interviewed you? Do you remember? It's okay. I don't know all the people at KUW too. I just know.
Yeah.
I just know.
A very nice gentleman interviewed me. Do you know him?
What's the name of the guy who does the nighttime money guy? Kai Rizdal. Kai. Right?
It's not Kai. I don't feel like his thing is about Christian music in Seattle.
That's such an exciting opportunity.
It was really great. I had never heard my voice in headphones before, so that was a real terrible day.
Yeah.
It's a terrible day.
Because you're used to hearing your voice through the vibrations of your skull.
Yeah, which really mutes how terrible you sound.
You don't sound terrible.
I know, like, you don't sound terrible to me, but, like, haven't you ever had that moment where you, like, hear your voicemail machine?
On your parents' answering machine, yeah.
And you're shit, like, why does anyone talk to me?
Like, why do I sound so childish?
Why do I have friends or people who love me?
Yeah.
So that's what I went through when I was on public radio.
So you just were having that reoccurring thought the entire time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I still get, like, low-level anxiety when I hear my voice. Like, in my right ear right now. You're in my left.
You got to make up your mind.
Like, you're right in my left ear. Like, I know it. I hear you laugh, like, so close to my brain.
Hurts, right?
It hurts so bad. It's closer than you've ever been.
I know. Anybody who's listening to this, just seek cover. Seek cover because I'm getting closer to the mic.
It's like right in there. By the way, is Garrett's role just to kind of giggle the whole time?
Yeah. I mean, he just kind of drinks and then works on the knobs and stuff.
Oh, I love that.
It's been going great. Yeah.
I love that role for
But
you.
he has no microphone, but I constantly ask him questions and ask for his perspective.
Wait, do you guys listen to Pete Holmes? Is that You Made It Weird?
I've listened to a lot of Pete Holmes.
Okay, so Pete Holmes is You Made It Weird. That's Katie, like his,
right.
the woman who does the sound.
He's always like, Katie. He always is talking
Katie,
about her, talking
how does
to
it
her.
sound?
Yeah.
Or like like one of my favorite episodes. Any episode with Mike Birbiglia on it is my favorite because he gives Pete so much shit.
Yeah.
And they're always checking in with Katie on whether Mike's being too mean, and you can't hear what Katie says. It makes me so happy.
What was the one we listened to in the van? Dana Carvey?
Yeah, that was good.
Did you listen to that one? Mm-mm. You should go back and listen. It kind of changed my life in some ways.
He does. Did you listen to the Bazan one?
Yes.
That one was really good. He also did
good.
the Gary Shandling one.
Who's
really.
Gary? He's the old guy. Is he dead now?
He passed away. Yeah.
Do you have to say it like that, or it's rude?
Yeah, he bit it.
He gone.
Oh, he gone. Oh, I hate it. No, I'm so uncomfortable.
Why did you reference Gary Shandling's death with such reverence?
Because Gary Shandling was an amazing comedian.
Right. I mean, we've established that, but like, what?
I'll say like he gone for like shitty people, like Osama bin Laden. He gone, but not Gary Shandling. He did some great shit.
When some people die in the future, like the Kardashians,
Yeah. Oh, how do we talk about it?
like no, are
I just
who are you gonna say, he gone to? Name two people that you're gonna say he gone to because you don't give a shit about them, but they're alive and young now.
Young? Like, are we talking young or just people in general I wish were dead?
These have to be
Do they
like,
have to be young?
no, I guess not.
I mean, like, Trump is like a he gone.
Sure.
I would say.
I think he's even more of a he gone.
Yeah.
Like thank you, Satan, for sucking him down into the soil. Like, that's sort of like
That's like
you
a
say a
praise be.
satanic prayer.
The praise be he gone.
Thanking him for stealing his body and soul into hell.
I feel like you just
gone.
gave him I feel you gave him 40 more words than he deserved. Like, I
true.
feel like honestly the only thing I'll say when Trump inevitably dies, like hopefully a terrible death, is
That's good.
and then that's
That's
it.
good.
Then I'll end the conversation. Who else? I think I need to do something that's not like too political because that's too easy.
Yeah.
I think I would say that about like Ed Sheeran.
Yeah. I mean,
Like, I don't think I'd care.
okay, I don't know why I'm doing this, but
Also, he seems like he'd be kind of like a guy who uses the word friend zoned in all seriousness. He'd be like, she friend zoned me. Shut up, Ed. Like, yeah.
I think that line in his song, though, "The Shape of You." Come on, why do you dislike that line?
Which line? All of them? They're all bad.
No, not like all the no, just that one line. Like, I'm in love.
With the shape of you?
Yeah,
That's cool.
you like it.
I don't. I mean, it's...
I mean, what are some other, you're a writer.
I am.
What are some
I
of the
remind people all the time.
what are some of the other ways to say that? I thought that was a rather eloquent way to say, I like your body.
That I want to fuck you?
Yeah, or so many
No.
other things.
Okay, so if you've obviously listened to the song, the context of that is not like, hey girl, like you and I have gotten to know each other over a period of time,
Right.
and
It's like we are complete
we're
and
in a
total
club,
strangers.
and like I just want to fuck you, and I feel the need to tell you specifically I'm in love with the shape of you, which
Right.
for
Like that's my entry point.
yeah
Yeah, okay.
Entry point.
Bam! Bam! Sound effect. We got Garrett, get on that
Oh,
shit.
yo 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 yoing.
Shawing.
I mean, it's fine.
Okay,
Like,
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
it's the context, right? And also just like, I don't think we need another pop song by a pasty dude with like ironic tattoos being like, hey girl, I think you have a hot bod.
Right.
I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not something I think deserves a lot of attention. And I think he's
Good point.
not the worst, but actually it's how bland he is that makes him the worst. Like he's so inoffensive that he deeply offends my sensibilities.
Right,
Like
that makes sense.
he's a he gone guy. Like
No, I think that's perfect. He is a he gone guy.
yeah.
I mean, it's not like he's describing a scene where like Diego Rivera's talking about his love for Frida. It's fucking just at a club. He's a nightmare.
He's at a
awful.
club, and imagine, you know what makes it worse is imagining Ed Sheeran, the dude,
Right.
at a club, and like if he wasn't Ed Sheeran,
Right.
and you saw that guy staring at you with eyes that said, I'm in love with the shape of you after never speaking to you,
Right.
you would want to run away. Like
Right.
that's not like Enrique at a club being like, I can dance, I have something to offer you, like I'm here in the moment with you. It's
I'm gay. Let's do this.
I'm gay. Let's fucking do this.
Not fuck, but
You know.
let's party, girl. I love it in this illustration too that Enrique is just approaching you at the club for whatever reason. He's like, "What's?"
Enrique wants to affirm the shape of me. And I'm fine with
Enrique's
that.
Enrique's a fucking saint. He's just going around to clubs.
Affirming people. Just like, I love your shape. I love your shape. That's a terrible accent.
Mother
I'm a
Teresa.
writer.
Let me try the accent.
Okay, do it.
See if I can.
You're Brazilian-ish.
Yeah, ish. What was the line? What was it again?
I'm in love with the shape of you.
That's what he said. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the line.
But what? I'm in love with the shape of you. The U was a little extreme. You've. The U became a V-E. You've.
It's not Latin.
You've now.
I'm in love with the shape of you.
It's just strange. It's just, if Enrique came up to you and said, you'd be like,
Are you okay?
it's just,
Enrique is having a stroke.
well, yeah, what's the stroke
Someone call
checklist?
911.
Yeah, okay, that was the best detour. Okay, fuck Ed Sheeran, but I just want to make one more point.
But not like I would fuck Ed Sheeran, just like I don't. I just need that to be like really on the record, like
Good, I'm
very
glad.
strongly. I'm
I'm
a strong
glad.
would not fuck Ed Sheeran.
Okay, I'm more in the kind of gray zone of that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's fine.
But I'm not going to like it.
No. You don't have to we can't control what we want
Right.
sexually.
Yeah.
Sexually.
Okay, but here's the point I want to make, and then I want to move on to things that actually matter.
I don't know why this doesn't matter, but okay.
I mean, because we're talking about Ed Sheeran and Donald Trump is awful.
So many terrible gingers.
Yeah, they're both gingers.
They're both little gingers. Yeah, they're terrible. Okay, yeah, move on to things that matter.
Not yet.
Okay.
So the only thing that could have tipped you off is if creepy, kind of red-faced, strange beard, wiry hair Ed Sheeran comes up to you at the bar, and he's like, "Hey, girl." But this is the hybrid of Enrique. And I'm just
And
trying
Ed
again.
Sheeran.
I'm trying to give myself another opportunity. I'm in love with the shape of you. Come on, that was better. You.
Who are you supposed to be?
I'm the hybrid.
You're no one.
Anyway, Ed Sheeran is wearing like $150,000 watch.
What is that? I'll steal the watch and I'll not have to hang out with Ed Sheeran.
But here's my point. If you could recognize that he's wearing a very expensive wristwatch,
Galen.
you would be like, this is not just some pasty, weird motherfucker.
He's an entitled,
Trying out-
rich, pasty, weird
Trying out.
motherfucker.
Exactly. Then you'd at least know there's money there. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything about how you do anything after that, but
I would know that, and then that would make me run away farther because those dudes are the one who'll fuck you up, and then they won't get tried in court.
Yeah.
So
Just got dark.
I know. You were the one who you were like, let's not talk about things that matter, and I was like, but what if I tied it into something that does?
Boing. We do all our own sound effects here.
We're a DIY sound effects studio.
Man. Okay.
Also, I just need to point out that you and I haven't sat down and had a real conversation in a very long time. I don't think like we've gotten to the real conversation yet, but
Yeah.
hey, Jones.
I know, it has been a while. You've been doing a lot of living.
I've been doing a lot of living. Yeah,
I've just been like holed up watching Netflix and raising children.
I've been raising a child.
No, that's a dog.
Since this is not a visual podcast, because I guess that would be a movie.
Whoa.
I haven't. Whoa. That's called a documentary. Except for that, those are usually better done. Jones is my dog, and he's redheaded and stupid. He's wandering around aimlessly right now.
Have you ever made that connection that he kind of looks like Ed Sheeran except in dog form?
Yeah, no, I get it.
And
I know.
can you please publicly apologize for naming your dog after my son?
Never.
My right ear just lit up in a way I like. Defiance.
Never.
Okay.
I didn't mean to. I named my dog after Indiana Jones, and then I feel like it was like Jones was like 3 or 4 months old, and I saw you, and I was like, oh, this is Jones. And you gave me this look, and I was like, also your son.
Hey, that's great. You
Yeah.
named your dog after Indiana Jones? What's the inspiration?
The line I use is that,
Wait, but is this the line you use, but it's not really true?
no, it's actually true.
Okay.
Okay, this is a stupid thing to say. You should cut this out.
We haven't done any editing thus far.
Awesome.
But go on.
Damn it. Schnauzers and poodle, he's a schnauzer poodle mix. Schnauzers are known, they were truffle hunting dogs. They're diggers, so they dig
For the
a lot.
mushrooms.
For the mushrooms. So I was like, oh, he likes to dig. And then he was really cute. So the line I use is that, oh, I named him Jones after Indiana Jones
Yep.
because he likes to dig and the ladies love him. Huh. No, that needed a laugh. I don't know why you're
I'm
being
waiting for the punchline to just surge through me. But nothing's happening, and I'm sorry. I'm just sorry, okay?
You're just still resentful.
Probably.
Garrett's laughing.
Oh my God, this is the best.
Anytime, by the way, if you don't laugh at my joke, I'm just gonna say Garrett's laughing, even if he's not.
Yeah. No, that's fine. You can throw him under the bus like that.
No one can see.
Everyone's gonna be like, "Wow, Garrett, you thought Kathleen was super
Yeah.
funny,
Lord
even
no.
during all those like terrible jokes."
This is the opposite of what we should do right now, but can you walk me can you walk me through the punchline? So this I'm not
Well,
stupid.
because I know, buddy.
There's a dog
Okay, so I
Named
named him
Jones.
after Indiana Jones because both
who
Indiana.
I'm familiar with.
You are familiar.
Huge fan of the films, except for that last one with
We don't need to talk about
Shia.
it. The fucking crystal one.
That was weird.
It was so weird.
But I just felt like they did a bad job with it.
They did yeah, of course they did. Also, yeah, we might not get to Shia LaBeouf later, and that's fine, but I'm open to it.
Like he at least gets a oh when he dies.
Yeah, he gets like, oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
like he
buddy.
did that art installation where he sat in that room for a long time and let people stare at him. He deserves it. Oh,
he deserves like a, oh, bummer.
yeah,
Shia LaBeouf passed.
yeah. He definitely gets. What did you
All
say?
I
What
want-
did you say originally? Was it he
Passed away.
Passed away. So he doesn't get he passed away. But he gets he passed.
I don't know him. His work doesn't matter that much to me. It's not like I love Transformers. I just want to say, like, I did love Even Stevens. All I need in my life is I would love it if I cultivate a level of respect in my community to get like a Kathleen passed away.
Yeah,
I don't want like a,
The full-
Kathleen, she you know,
she's dead.
she dead.
It's just like unspoken.
She said, oh, she died. With that kind of
She passed away.
finality.
Yeah, you want some reverence.
Yeah, not reverent, but just like it's sad enough to like
Yeah.
to require some social formalities. That's all I want.
For some reason, I think that's actually kind of like a touching goal. I'm
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah. I want to like inspire some social formality when I die. And then I also want some people to get very drunk and sad.
Yeah.
This is like those two things. And then also like an interactive headstone.
Like that you can touch, like a touch screen?
I've decided I want a Scrabble board. I want a Scrabble board as my headstone.
Whoa.
So like it'll like one of the inlaid ones. So like my doting fans.
Jesus.
Or like my
Jesus, this is good. I've never thought about
I want my
headstone
Scrabble board
design.
but then like I want a Scrabble board, you have to bring your own pieces. But I want like a special thing where like
I'm not going to provide the pieces of my own headstone.
you can't do it. There's just like I thought about this, and I want there to be like a special addendum. If you spell out my name, you just like win the game,
And then what happens?
and then you just fucking win the game.
No, but then you get into the portal.
Oh yeah, well then you
It
like then
opens
it's
up.
Narnia, and then like
No,
yeah,
this is not PG.
Narnia is not PG. Have you read those books?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well then I don't know why you think
I
you
read-
would engage in this.
I read The War and the Witch in the Wardrobe.
So the second one.
And The Magician's Nephew, where they fall into those magical pools.
Okay, so you've read
2 of them.
You've read 2 of them.
2 out of 10 or whatever. That was enough.
Galen's not a reader.
Yeah. I mean, not anymore. What's the point? I did major in modern literary studies.
What?
Can you believe that? I do want to get back to that piece you wrote for The Stranger about Christian music in Seattle.
Yeah.
I don't want to toot your horn.
You can't. You're married.
I don't want to toot your horn too hard. But I really do feel like that was one of the most comprehensive. I know that there's a new book there's a new book out, newish in the last 5-10 years. Time is all relative to me now that I'm a parent. And,
Published in 1998.
kind of. But it was like, this band could be your life.
Oh yeah, I love that book. It's Michael Azerrad.
Never read it.
It's called Our Band Could Be Your Life. It's great. It's like portraits of the underground in the 80s and 90s.
But it also has a lot about Christian music, doesn't it?
It has parts of it, yeah, because it's all different.
Who does it talk about in Christian music? You, as reading, you've read the book.
I've read the book. It's been a long time. I actually don't remember. I'd have to pick it up again.
Okay. But that was the only kind of written thing that I'd ever seen that dealt with the subject you dealt with. Not just the Northwest. It was sort of like the genesis of that whole... Because, I mean, honestly, I moved to Seattle from California because I was a fan of Damien and Pedro the Lion.
Oh, interesting.
Like, their music was enough magnetically. I was like, if this kind of shit is going on in the Northwest, like, I will follow that. And me growing up in churches, I kind of knew where they were coming from.
Right.
So I just felt like your piece on that was like the fullest, most comprehensive voice or perspective that has ever talked about that.
Thanks. And I will just say, like, right up front, Sean Nelson is really a huge part of that. I don't think I could have written that because, I mean, I don't know, for anyone who ends up listening to this, like, I'm 29, so I didn't have a ton of firsthand experience with that scene. And Sean approached me about writing it because I studied theology in college. I'm no longer Christian.
Is that what you majored in?
Yeah.
That was like your major. So did you go
was.
to a Christian college?
I went to a Catholic college.
That's kind of cool, though.
I was
That's
Catholic.
a little more legit, right?
It's a legit. People tend to hear like Catholic college. They're like, oh, like education. And I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
It's not like Billy Graham.
Right.
Like Jones.
He can do that.
Dogs barking. So yeah, I went to Catholic college for theology. I left the church when I was about 21, a little before. But I still just remained like I have a soft spot for the church, and I have a soft spot for evangelicals in particular because I wasn't raised in it, so I don't have a ton of the baggage associated.
Me neither. My mom was Catholic, and I just came into it because they were giving away cars at the megachurch and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a megachurch?
Didn't have a bag in church because Catholics were just kind of like, but we have crackers and wine, and I was like, in.
That's enough.
I'm in. I'm going every night. I'm going to take an extra big gulp and be like, whoops,
So
sorry.
did Sean know that you had a soft spot for
Yeah,
evangelicals?
so Sean and I had been friends for a while. At the time, I had just started freelancing for City Arts.
Yeah.
And then, but I didn't know there was like some, I thought it was okay to do both. So Sean approached me and said, hey, actually,
Which is not?
apparently it's not, which I now know, which totally makes sense because they're competing audiences.
Got it.
So
They're like competing for audiences? Or
well, it's a very similar audience. So
Right.
if you have like a certain voice, you don't
Got
want
it.
that same voice in two papers, which now it's a pretty, logically it makes sense, but I'm not necessarily a linear thinker. So it took me a minute to get there.
Yeah, you and I both have established that from the beginning of this. So
We're more like one of those like light up ping pong machines. Just
cheers, girl.
The sky is blue. I'm hungry.
Hey, but we got back to the point.
Yeah, we did it.
Let's fast forward.
So Sean knew that I was very interested or like had a background in theology, that I was also much more maybe tolerant of both sides.
Right.
Because I had been, agnostic, bordering on atheist at different points, and then, very religious at some points, and I kind of just go all over. And so he approached me about writing that specific piece. So he said, he was like, I think that there's some, maybe a more insidious side of Christian music in Seattle, just based on like the grunge movement and kind of piggybacking off of that. And
Totally.
This was right after, like a year after the dissolution of Mars Hill.
Right. Which is a big deal.
Which, and I felt really...
There was a big
that was
influence in the
personal.
city.
We all of us here have friends who were
Yeah.
very involved in Mars Hill
Yeah.
and who we love. And, I wanted to protect them. And
Yeah.
so in a way, I wanted to write the piece in order to, and I hope it came across that way. And I think it did, where I didn't want to point fingers at people who ended up being involved in Mars Hill.
Right. I don't think that came across. No,
But I also wanted to point out that like Mark Driscoll is a steaming pile of horse shit who deserves to be in jail.
No. My when we moved here in 2005, my wife moved here in 2004, and she was going to theology school, and she went to one Mars Hill service, and then after that, I think she probably told me over the phone because I was still in California, and she was like, that guy has some real motherfucking problems. And that was probably 10 years. I mean, when did it kind of all hit the fan for Mars Hill?
I think it started dissolving or like getting really bad in 2014.
14.
And then it officially ended in 2015.
Yeah. Whatever.
Something around then.
Numbers are fuzzy, but it doesn't matter. But
Yeah, because I wrote I wrote that piece in December of 2016, and a year prior had been when it finally dissolved. And I moved here in early 2011.
Yeah.
So it was like I moved in, it was like very big, and I lived in Ballard, and it was like the big Ballard campus,
Right.
and a lot of my friends went there, and I just remember being super baffled and actually thinking that the way they used independent artists in that scene was really. I'm in marketing as a job.
Right.
So I
Like
kind
at
of
the Paradox, you mean?
at the Paradox is what like the Paradox, the music venue, just for background. Mars Hill had a venue called the Paradox that operated during some really harsh all ages laws during the late 90s and early 2000s before the Vera Project was able to take off. And Mars Hill used it to kind of recruit bands, like secular bands and Christian bands, and kind of get kids into a church environment. And
I mean, it was a major. I remember seeing, all the lineups for the Paradox
it's pretty
from
crazy.
California. They were
like
great lineups.
Bright Eyes,
Yeah.
and Damien definitely played a ton. Dave did.
Starflyer was great.
Starflyer did. But so the Paradox, but then also just Paradox was way over by the time I moved here.
Me too. I think. Even in 2005, I think it was done.
You
interviewed Alicia a lot.
Yeah,
Right?
Alicia Blake was a booker, and she was really great at giving me information about it. 'Cause she's been so intimately involved in Seattle music for so long.
And she's not a Christian.
No,
So
and
she wasn't involved in the church even peripherally. She just was down for the music. Yeah.
Yeah, and she really tried hard to keep it secular and like make secular bands feel very welcome there. And then, she gave me some statements around when they moved the Paradox from that theater in the U District
Yeah.
to their campus in Ballard, and then basically ended it. fairly quickly afterwards because they replaced their secular volunteers with church volunteers, and it became a much more overtly religious experience.
Did you get any context on why that deliberate change was made?
They're really secretive, and so Megan Seeling is this really great writer who now lives in Nashville, and she used to cover the religion beat for The Stranger. And she had reported when that stuff happened with the Paradox, and some of the pastors there had released statements that said, this is not going to be religious. We're just moving for monetary reasons. But,
right.
That's like when I moved here and I kind of heard that. And especially when I started digging into this a couple of years ago, it was kind of just an insidious place.
Right.
I'm not a paranoid conspiracy theory person, but the minute that it was brought to my attention kind of how they operated with the Paradox and how they filled that kind of void left by the all ages law that nonprofits were exempt from, I was like, oh yeah, it was definitely a play to convert people. And it worked.
They saw an opening.
Yeah, they saw an opening. And it fucking worked.
Right.
That's actually, as a marketing person, which I don't love to say,
did
but
it work
that's
at the U district?
I mean, there's never going to be hard data on it, but with their growth and with their image, so their growth was rapid. If you look at who they were recruiting, they had Dustin Kensrue from Thrice as their worship leader. They also had Jeff from 90 Pound Wuss.
I don't know that band.
They're part of the kind of tooth and nail scene in the 90s, and he's really great and has addressed kind of the Mars Hill issue. And he's pointed out to me actually since I published that piece that I got some things I think a little wrong, and he wished I had reached out to him more for his perspective. And it's such a huge conversation.
It is.
That I feel like that piece was, especially I'm really cognizant of that. I didn't live it firsthand. I was very much reporting. And I think the reason Sean wanted me to do it is because I don't have a huge emotional tie to the I love the music.
So you could be more objective.
Yeah, I could do a little bit more journalism around it. I'm very much sensitive to the music element of it. And I love the city, but I didn't know a ton of the players. So
how did you, as an evangelical, or at least someone who had studied Catholicism in school, how do you think you were influenced while you were learning about that? Do you think it changed the story at all, or do you have any analysis about the story because of that?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been evangelical. I just tend to, my ex-boyfriend says that I attract evangelicals like a magnet.
Because you're friendly.
Apparently.
You are. You're kind of warm and friendly, and that's a very deliberate evangelical thing. I think that's where I get some of my friendliness, it was nothing matters.
Catholics are kind of dicks.
Which is tight, though. You know what I mean? Because they're we don't have anything to prove.
Oh, yeah, we stopped converting years ago.
You know what I mean?
Hundreds, we're no, we got this. We colonized everybody. We're done.
Yeah.
We're tired. That's fine.
But it's kind of amazing. They're it's just, look, it's built into the fucking service. You either get it or you don't. I'm not going to...
This is actually the body and blood.
Right.
Oh, you mean kind of metaphor? No, for real. But maybe you have a hard time. Then you're not Catholic. That's basically being
I'm not going to
Catholic.
sugarcoat this for you. You either get it or you don't. You come or you don't. Mm-hmm. Whatever. And I'm sure that's really oversimplifying. But, yeah, the evangelical thing is from the second you walk into the door, the customer experience. You know what I mean? It's
oh my God, yes, the Apple Store of spirituality.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and... So, do you think you got any of that from your church involvement?
When I was in college as a theology major, I hung out with a lot of evangelicals because I was a novelty. I literally had one of my friend's parents be like, "Oh, you're Kathleen, the Catholic girl," and I was like,
"Totally,
yes."
Hey, can I tell you a story?
You may. Is it about a Catholic girl?
No, it's about a Catholic boy in a Catholic family. This is a 2-part story. I'm going to try to tell it quick. Garrett, you can edit it out if you want to.
Garrett doesn't edit.
So we went to the Catholic Church because my mom was nominally Catholic because she's from Brazil, right?
Yeah.
So it was 99%
99% of people there are Catholic.
Exactly. So, and we like went to get the first communion, and we went on the holidays and stuff. But then there was this family down the street in the cul-de-sac that was for real Catholic. Like you didn't mess with the Fredericksons. It's funny. But because you knew they were Catholic. So you didn't swear at their house, whatever. So I went down to hang out with Andy Frederickson. And Andy Frederickson had this interactive board game that had a VHS tape that went along with it. And it had this creepy, like, Tales from the Crypt kind of narrator that sort of, like, influenced the game. And he would it'd be like a green screen, and he'd have like a countdown, maybe some instructions or something, and then all of a sudden his scary face would pop up. So to prep me for this, Andy Frederickson's mom said, do your parents let you watch Married with Children? And I said, yeah, they don't really care about that. Because I think maybe I was like 9 or something at the time. And then I was like, yeah, we can just assume that, we could just assume that it's okay if I play this game or something. And then Andy Frederickson's mom went like this. She went, Galen, we don't assume in this house. Do you know why? And I was like, no, Andy Frederickson's mom. Why don't you assume in this house? And then she did this on like a realtor pad in the kitchen.
Galen's writing out the word assume.
We don't assume because it makes
circling the word ass.
An ass out
you
of
go for the
you
underlined you
and me.
Underlined me.
What the fuck? That will never leave me. That was one of the strangest moments of my entire
life. That's what you associate with Catholicism?
Sort of, yeah.
I love that. I love that you were like, oh, Catholicism? Let me tell you a story about wordplay.
Why did she do that to me?
Because she was teaching a really valuable lesson.
That you shouldn't assume things?
Yeah, fucking also, like, it's fun to find the word ass in words.
So is she, do you think she was just playing a trick on me? And
yeah.
Then Catholics are the shit. Just playing a trick on a 9-year-old boy?
Okay, you're an adult, Galen. Would you ever do that seriously to a child, or would you do it because you thought it was kind of funny to point out ass, you, and me? And
I would do it to a tween. I wouldn't do it to a child because that's cruel. But if some tween was looking at me weird, I'd be like, come over here.
I like that they don't even have to do anything.
Yeah.
Just like some kid on the street just gives you a side eye and you're like, get over here. I had some wordplay for you. You need to learn a lesson about spelling.
Oh, man. Yeah. So anyway, that's my association with Catholicism.
I love that. Usually people with Catholicism are like, my grandma was Catholic. She always sent me like newspaper clippings and saint cards. And I'm like, mine too, girl.
Okay, but you got like a real Catholic education.
I did. Yeah, Catholic high school, Catholic college.
But you were hanging out with evangelicals, and so you were the novelty.
They're so unstructured. Yeah. Like every time I would go to like an evangelical church service, I'd be like, what is this? Like free play time? Like what are you doing? Just like one guy's up there riffing? Like why am I listening to this asshole?
Totally.
Where did he go to school? It's like this weird church of ego.
Yes.
I don't know. I have a thing about it.
No, it is.
And then I'm like, what about communion? Like sometimes we drink grape juice. I'm like, me too. What about communion?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like that's what you...
You mean there's no magic here? Fuck you.
Fuck this. I want wizards. Where's my Jesus wizard?
Totally.
Yeah.
I want actual flesh in my mouth.
I want it in my mouth.
This went too far. We did it.
We found the line. We played with it.
So your exposure to both Catholicism and evangelical Christianity.
Mm-hmm. I think it gave me...
So I said that about sort of your demeanor. So you're an evangelical magnet.
I think it's because
So that's what Sean could pick up on you. That you can hang with evangelicals.
Well, Sean and I had been friends for a while, and he knew that, like, I was friends with people who were actively Christian, and
cool.
And was not. I was not unafraid to talk about that with people in a way that I did not. I was not the friend who was like, "Oh, you're Christian." that's dumb. Like, I don't know.
But I think there's no other national sort of scene that ever reached that level the way Seattle's did.
No, I mean, I'm sure after like this podcast is released, you're going to get some emails that are like, wait a second. But like, to my knowledge, this is so comprehensive and it became so deeply integrated, right? So like a lot of those Christian artists ended up moving on to independent labels and then sometimes major labels that were not associated with the church.
Yeah.
And, you know, you sometimes think about it now where like I know some people get like really confused and like John from the Mountain Goats, like they find out he's really Catholic. And they're like, wait, but like wait. I'm like, no,
it's okay.
It's okay. He'll be okay. It's fine. And I think the Northwest kind of fostered that, and I actually think that kind of the way that all ages shows and like church shows functioned in the 90s, like the mid to late 90s after grunge, I think really integrated Christian music into the mainstream. I don't know if that's good or bad. I do know it has created an unusual amount of tension. And I think right now, like as we're recording this, the tension is actually obviously much greater than when I wrote this 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. You know, there are more lines being drawn between like those who have faith and those who don't. And
you think so? Just after Mars Hill kind of collapsed?
Oh, I think after the election.
Oh yeah.
I think there's like, you know, the like Christian as the power culture right now is very strong. And I know that friends who are Christian feel really uncomfortable with that, and friends who are not Christian feel very angry. And I think both sides are very justified. But
that's
like
a great phrase, power culture.
I mean, it's a power culture.
I never heard a pundit say that though. Did you come up with that?
I did just now.
That's good.
I should be paid more.
That's brilliant.
I'm gonna let people know.
That's brilliant.
I deserve more money.
I love that power culture. It's kind of creepy and good.
It's super
good.
creepy.
It's really good.
But have you guys seen the new Louis C.K. special?
The one in the bar?
Yeah.
Oh, no. The stand-up.
The one he's like wearing a suit. It's like his
I didn't see
newest
it.
one. He has this great thing where he's talking about like, you know, how Christians feel persecuted sometimes these days. And then he's like, what year is it? Like he talks about like BC and like Christians won, you know, and I think like this is kind of in the past, 6 months or so has been when I think a lot of people have felt that more. And I think that's contributed even more to the culture that I think I was writing a little bit a year and a half ago, which was not reflected nationally, but very regionally.
Yeah.
Of, Mars Hill was very much like a power culture, kind of insidious. Like you couldn't quite tell, these people with tattoos also hated gay people or didn't hate gay people, but their pastor did. So like, how do I talk about that?
Yeah.
Like my friends who went there, like were LGBTQ friendly, but they were at this church that was very obviously not. And so it's this very complicated thing. Is Jones being an asshole right now?
Yeah.
He's just a dog, man. He's fine.
Jones.
Yeah, no, but like, did you notice? That's interesting. Did you notice any of that kind of psychological dissonance for your friends? Mm-hmm. You did, where they were kind of.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Huh. I had a friend who joined Mars Hill
because that stuff eats at you. Nobody can really weather that forever.
No, and one of my very close friends who joined Mars Hill, she was atheist and then decided to join. Had to sit me down because she knew how much I disliked Mark Driscoll. She was like, I need to tell you something. I thought she had cancer. She was like, I'm joining Mars Hill. And I was like, that's worse.
It does seem worse. I know that, but I feel that PTSD sort of from, as people who are associated with Mars Hill too.
And I mean, obviously she and I are like, but we are still very, very close. And she left Mars Hill towards the end but she was, she had that kind of dissonance. She's like, yeah, like he says some terrible things, but I met some amazing people there. And that's kind of the thing with mega churches that I found is that it's so easy to distance yourself from the overarching culture because you feel like you found a niche and not see your responsibility to the message. So, and that was hard for me to kind of grasp with some of my friends who I really love, who obviously found community there that was not intolerant in their personal lives, but then I always felt dissonance in myself for like, I love these people. They're not bad, but they're aligning themselves with a message that if you say, I go to Mars Hill, the first message is like, they don't allow gay people to be baptized. Right. They're complementarian to a pretty harsh degree.
Which versus egalitarian?
Yeah, so like,
where
the
they feel
gender
like
roles.
man is better than woman,
or
has
man,
different distinct roles.
Man is the head of the house, or just like head in many, like women aren't allowed to teach in the church. And there are obviously varying opinions, and I recognize that, and obviously I recognize that in the friends who went. But I think the hardest thing for me, and the hardest thing I think for a lot of my friends towards the end, was realizing that it doesn't matter your personal beliefs when you are signing your name to a church of ego. So it's one man's ego. Like Mark Driscoll's ego ran that church. You didn't read anything about Mars Hill without Mark Driscoll being at the forefront of it, which meant if you said you were at Mars Hill, it doesn't matter how good of a person or tolerant you are.
Right.
You can't control the fact that you are associating yourself and giving weight to Mark Driscoll's message.
Yeah.
Which is hard because that's a personal responsibility we don't want to take. And I think a lot of us as Americans right now feel that same way with Donald Trump, right? So like, we're American. We have to actively work harder to not sign our name to this thing. But no matter what, at this moment, being involved
Just
and
by
engaged in this
association.
country, we are, to a degree, giving weight to Donald Trump as a person.
An accomplice. Yeah.
It sucks. Like, and I feel for that. I mean, obviously Mars Hill is not the same. Like, you can leave a church much easier than you can leave a country, but at the same time, I know how hard it is to leave a church. I know how damaging that can be. I know that there's spiritual trauma and family, and I was very lucky when I left my church. It was so easy. I had so much support. My parents were on board. And I kind of feel like leaving a church sometimes can feel like being without a country.
Yeah.
And so I think like that, for me,
Because you're severing a lot of like personal ties. I mean, it is like sort of removing yourself from a culture.
yeah, I mean, if you move, like, say, like, all three of us in this room moved to, like, France tomorrow, we would be
Don't
out
forget
from
the dog.
Yeah, and Jones, who's being weird right now.
He's fine.
Digging. He's digging. He's ruining something. We'll find out later. It'll be a fun surprise. But, like, say, like, the three of us move to France tomorrow.
Please,
Because-
baby Jesus, take us there now.
Just like
Beam us up, God.
I want to see Marine Le Pen just like cry a lot. That'd be fun. And
Could you imagine a channel, like a French channel
like
that's
her
just
crying.
her just crying?
That
Everybody's
one
like,
gif.
I can't change the channel.
This is like porn, like that's French porn. People are smoking cigarettes and masturbating to Marine Le Pen, just like crying.
As they should
I
be.
fucking love that.
Good TV.
Good TV. What is this, HBO? But like that's the thing is like I understand people who didn't want to leave Mars Hill because they're like, but I have friends and community there. I
Right.
don't know Mark Driscoll. It's so big. I don't know him. I never even talked to him.
Right.
So like, why would you leave? And then you kind of realize, I think very slowly over time, that leaving your community would mean like, because of one man that you don't know, when
Yeah.
it would really mean leaving a bunch of people that you formed really close relationships to. But I think a lot of my friends who ended up leaving Mars Hill before it eventually collapsed realized that like it's much more damaging to the larger community that I'm in to continue to sign my name to this man that I might not know personally, but whose message is driving my identity. And that's a really painful severance to make. And I think that one of the reasons I wrote that piece is because I think like music and art are ways that we all kind of connect to each other in the city. It's an arts community. It's why I moved here.
Me too.
And I feel like the Christian thing, especially the Mars Hill thing, I don't know if you felt this as well, but it felt like this divide. Like, you know, people find out that someone's a Christian artist and they're like a little bit more wary, or like, you know, sometimes like especially when there's like the weird post-Christian Americana scene in Ballard for a minute.
Right.
Like it felt like weirdly Christian. Everyone would be like, wait, does anyone go to church here? Did they all just used to go to church? Or like, what is it? Can I swear?
Yeah.
Does anyone like,
I know what you're
is it
talking
just
about.
like over the shirt, over the pants stuff, or like what's happening? And it just felt like, and then they're like, you know, the like femme punk happened on Capitol Hill, and then it became like these like very diverse music scenes in Seattle. And
Yes.
honestly, one thing that I kept figuring out was like, I felt like their involvement with each other ended up being based on kind of where they fell on a political and spiritual spectrum.
Like there were lines you don't cross necessarily.
I felt that way a little bit. And I don't know if that still holds true necessarily, but that was my perspective at the time was like, okay, like I love Taco Cat.
Right.
I don't feel like Taco Cat would ever, play with some like the Ballard folk dudes that I hung out with and, at Connor Byrne. Like,
Totally.
and it felt a little bit because like the Ballard folk dudes were like scruffy dudes who like just recently left their like very conservative homeschooled houses.
Yeah.
And Taco Cat was like much farther along in like like a different like political and spiritual sphere.
Yeah, it was already kind of realized.
But it didn't feel like a style thing. It didn't feel like, well, they're just playing different music. It felt actually kind of like a personal thing, and I was really curious as to why that was.
Like they were two different cultures going on simultaneously.
Yeah, and like maybe not necessarily as different as we thought they were, but I think there was like kind of a perception, like honestly at this point, if I see like tailored jeans, plaid shirt, beard, I'm like, oh my God, what church do you go to? Like, I don't know.
No, that is sort of like a residue from Mars Hill, I think. If you
Totally.
if you're like a clean Maldives looking motherfucker, then you probably go to church. If you're not, then you're like Kevin Barron's and you're just sort of chill.
Just like hanging out. It goes, okay, I wish this was visual. It's like beard can grow down to collarbone. You're like, you're in church. Beard down to nipples. It's like you live in the woods. You have a sawed-off shotgun. You have buried gold somewhere.
Wow. Okay, so maybe, don't you feel like those sort of church ties to Seattle, and maybe because of what you're talking about politically, nationally, it has sort of been taken over by a Christian power culture in a different way than it was with George W. Bush, and in a different way than it kind of slept and developed during Obama, where now with Trump, that is sort of the national, I don't know, it's just like, it just feels like here in Seattle, nobody's as bad as the people that put Trump in power.
I mean, the thing is, though, like, and I think I've been wrestling
But I've
with
also
this.
removed myself from church
Right.
for like since my kids were born. So like the last like 8 years or so. Can I tell you one more story?
You may. You asked me like a really heavy question, Galen. I was like, okay, I'm just going to be like real quick.
Yeah.
Galen just asked me, are any of us in liberal Seattle complicit in the election of Donald Trump? And then he goes, can I tell a story about my kids? So I'm going to be like, yeah, you
1-2
can.
punch.
We're going to fucking go back to that. But yes, tell me a story.
Okay, so we veered so far. So my son was like in Sunday school, sort of, until it wasn't too positive for him. So we kind of left the church. And for other reasons. But my daughter has had no associations with Sunday school.
Oh my God, how's Mona?
She's great. She's crazy,
She
man.
used to stare into my soul when she was a baby. Garrett, do you remember that? When she had like those big crazy eyes? Just stare fucking into your soul.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'd be like, I'm sorry I did wrong things. Like,
I've told you the
scary
story about
baby.
how she told me she hated my penis, right? I've told you.
Yeah. Still good though.
No, she's incredible. But Jones was asked, so this is my son Jones was asking my wife, does God control the weather? And Marissa's like, I'm just trying to get to piano practice or whatever. Can we talk about that a little bit later? And he's like, no, I want to know, like, does God control the weather? Like, how does it work? And then Mona's like, God? She's like, you mean Godzilla? She just had no reference.
Oh my God, I love that baby so
I know,
much.
it's pretty
She's not a
incredible.
baby anymore.
No, she's not.
She's like a human being.
But don't you feel like Seattle? Yeah, Seattle's complicit in some ways, maybe to Trump, but it's just like the Mars Hill vibes that were going on in the city have kind of like the ashes are done. You don't think so?
I think it's the nice thing about Mars Hill is that it was we had a bad guy.
Right.
And life's a lot easier when you have a bad guy because you can, like
Just
Mark
point
Driscoll,
fingers.
you take him down, right? Like we took Mark Driscoll down, it's done. But that's not how that works. So like,
Well, what do you mean? Because he did come down and that was really good.
right. But that means like, what was the line of thinking that led really smart, well-meaning people to listen to and pay money to a man who called Jesus, like a liberal Jesus, a limp-wristed sky fairy?
But don't you think it was just because the culture there or like the community was so developed?
I don't think so. And I
Really?
think it's honestly, and I'm going to turn this back on me because I think it's the easiest way to give anecdotal evidence. So Trump was elected. I voted for Hillary Clinton. I voted for Hillary Clinton actually in the 2008.
Me too.
Yeah. Obviously, I voted for Barack Obama in the generals, but
Me
in
too.
the primaries, I voted for Hillary. And I all that to say, I was an enthusiastic Hillary supporter. But
Me too. I went to go see her speak at the pier.
I didn't go to a Black Lives Matter rally until after Trump won. I also did not go to any immigrant rallies until Trump won. I was not involved in any community of people of color until after Trump won. And it's because of my complacency of trusting that like liberal Seattle or like everyone thinks like me, everyone
Right.
has the same mindset as me, like everything's going to be okay, was actually like a really insidious part of my privilege that led me to not actually standing on the side of people who needed my help. So I would love to say that
That's a good point.
I wasn't involved. I was,
Yeah.
I thought it was all going to be okay, and it wasn't, and I was really late.
Like because you were politically left, or because
I
like
was
everybody was well-meaning that and
Yeah, I was like, everyone means well, and that's enough. And
Right.
I think in personal relationships, I think
yeah.
that's okay, but I think in political relationships, like it's not. And I let down. Like I'm still really ashamed that it took me. I'm 29. He was elected when I was 28. It took 28 years for me to honestly step outside of my own white body and give a shit about people who are different than me, because I've been taught to be complacent. And I think white people, or white presenting people in general, are taught to assume the best in everybody because everyone assumes the best in us. And so I think that actually sometimes liberal havens like Seattle are really poisonous because we all kind of rock ourselves into this, especially with like kind of what we started talking about, or what we kind of came here to talk about with the rising rents. Like people of color are being pushed farther and farther out of the city. So we're kind of getting this like homogenous, like technically liberal leftist city without people who are willing to step outside their comfort zones and really like act on the ideas that they're fighting for, which I don't think makes us as bad in any way as like fascists, but I do think it allows us to create an environment for fascists to rise up, because we are like, but it'll be okay. Everyone means well.
like the way that Mark Driscoll came to power.
I think that's how he came to power. I think he came to power with people who were like, well, he maybe said that once, but he means well.
Right.
Whereas like most people, like people who have actually been oppressed, and I'm a woman. Oh my God, Jones.
I remember when he's like, no, you're not.
He's like, no, you're not.
He's
Go
like,
kill yourself.
You're a dog. You're a dog like me, man.
I'm white. I'm middle class. I am tall. I am thin. I present fairly like normal. I can blend in. So that means I'm fairly privileged in most ways.
Yeah.
Other than like being a woman.
Yeah.
So I just didn't have to think about it. I assumed everyone meant well. And I think that's how Mark Driscoll won for a while, is that everyone assumed he meant well because everyone met good people. And it was like primarily white people who went.
Yeah.
It was primarily left-leaning Christians who went, oddly enough, even though he's Calvinist.
Right.
I think it was a lot of left-leaning Christians who were like, oh yeah, but he like means well. He just says dumb things,
Right.
And it was like that. I think that is what allows really rabid political ideologues to kind of take the stage, because we're all just like, but just hear him out.
Right. Huh.
And so I've been embracing.
Like too polite. Like
We're a
this
little
is
too polite.
This is bullshit. But I'm gonna
What
be
you're
polite.
saying about evangelicals, where you're like, evangelicals are so polite.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. Evangelicals are either very like rowdy, like quiverfuls, or they're very polite, like Unitarians. I love Unitarians.
Yeah, man.
But I do think that's kind of what happens. And I think that there's like a real responsibility there that I've just started to process in the past few months.
You want to know? Can I tell? This is not just a funny anecdote, but to kind of bounce off what you're talking about, I developed sort of my understanding of sort of like white privilege and heteronormativity stuff in my Christian college fellowship.
No way.
Yeah, because
How?
that was their whole bent, was like, and they were kind of gay hating at the time.
Cool.
But I don't know what their official stance is now. But the
Do you want to email them real quick? Be like, hey guys, what do you feel right now?
But they were like, they would talk about, so they would like have people from different ethnicities talk about scripture and how their ethnicity influenced their understanding of the text. So, and it was a relatively diverse, for a UC school in California, it was a relatively diverse group of students that were at this fellowship.
Right.
But they they were like, look, guys, every night at our meeting is white night, right? So the next couple weeks, we're going to have Chinese night, and we're going to have, we're going to have black night. We're going to have Latino night. They did, and they would talk about ways that they understood God because of their culture.
How did that go usually? So would it be like you'd have a guest speaker who was of that ethnicity?
Like people who are in the community.
Right.
Yeah, it would sort of take that on for that week.
So would they be like a guest speaker, or were they like regular members?
Yeah, they were a regular member, and they would just
okay.
take, maybe they were like a student leader.
All right.
And then they would talk about it that week.
That's an interesting balance, right? Because I've been thinking more, or I've been hearing more about how it is totally true that as white people, we expect, especially white, straight, cis people, we expect people who are different to kind of justify themselves to us. Like, tell us what the world is like from your perspective, because I don't get it.
Asking them to be a spokesperson. Right.
Yeah, which is really interesting. But then there are ways where, like, if someone's a part of that community and then they're just like asked to share it in like a place where they've already been in conversation with other people, then that's a really nice way to do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a really big education for me, coming from like a mega church, Southern California, and going to, Northern California that was a little more diverse, and then getting to experience living with, sort of people that were from all kinds of different cultures, and the first time I walked into one of my friends' mom's house with shoes on, like her mom was fucking pissed, there was just like stuff like that I didn't know, that was cool.
I like how that was your example. You're like, yeah, like different cultures. Also, my friend's mom got mad at me because I tracked dirt into her house.
She was like yelling at her daughter, my friend in Taiwanese, like, what the fuck is he doing with his shoes in my house?
That would have been my mom too, and she's like a white lady from Missouri, so my mom gets so mad if I walk more than 5 steps into the house with shoes on. She's like, hey, Kathleen, hey. No, that's great. I mean, I think, right, like not everyone does a terrible job and everyone does a great job. I think that's the problem, is that we tend to right now think that liberals are doing a fucking fantastic job.
You think so? Doesn't it seem pretty disorganized? The perception?
Mean, obviously, you see how badly we... Oh, fuck, it's so bad. Oof. Woof. But, no,
I just found it interesting that sort of part of Seattle's, maybe, sin of omission is like not paying attention to the rise of Mark Driscoll and how we were complacent.
And we don't talk about it.
And we don't really talk about it, and kind of the way that I found my way out of being so myopic about whiteness or whatever, or my reality, was through church too. So I think it's also really scary that it's like church can function, it can achieve both things.
Oh yeah, I mean, church is a tool the same way as any tool is. Like it's not
just like powers for good or powers for evil. Yeah. Yeah.
The problem is, I think that, and I have a hard time because in general I do think that there are, like, one of my favorite authors in the whole world is Anne Lamott, who's decidedly Christian.
Traveling Mercies Lady.
Bird by Bird Lady.
See, I know books.
You know books. You read.
Not anymore.
Never again.
Can I have another beer, please?
Yeah, dude.
Garrett, are you ready?
Here, I'll pass them both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we have that opener, please?
Oh my God, you're so needy.
Okay, back to Anne Lamott.
Okay, back.
Watch, hey, Garrett, if you bring us over.
By the way, is sober. Like, and so I love that. Like, it's like, oh, Anne Lamott, hey, I need a beer.
It was just a coincidence, man.
But like, she talks a lot about, she's been a person who's helped me kind of keep my head on straight about Christianity, not like blame Christianity as a very huge and kind of a nebulous structure for the world's evils.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah, she always was very down to earth and made sense.
Yeah, I do. I will say that recently I've been trying much harder to kind of hold on to that because, and I do know, especially, here's the problem. Churches in wealthier white communities are kind of, they have become, I think, in many ways, like the real life equivalent of like hashtags. Like they're like,
Just like worthless.
like lifestyle. They're like weird like places to like talk about your lifestyle instead of like seek real challenge.
For sure.
But I do think churches in general, especially across the world, and I've seen this since I was a teenager,
Yeah.
especially in the Catholic Church, like churches provide actual like services.
Yeah.
Like I don't see a ton of, and this is not an expert opinion because I'm not engaged in the Seattle Christian community, but I don't see a ton of churches in wealthy neighborhoods engage with their community in like a kind of a practical way. But I see churches in like more poor communities, or like communities that are kind of outside of the 1%, like engaged in practical ways,
Yeah.
which so like I cannot say in good conscience that Christianity serves no purpose because I think mercy is still at the heart of Christian churches that don't get the most airtime.
And historically, too. I just feel like
Yeah.
movements came from churches a lot of times.
Yeah. And I think, you know, all the disillusion I feel or I hear that's really real, the spiritual abuse from churches, that's also real. And it's really hard to hold both of those things, especially when, like, I guess to go back to the term that I accidentally said earlier, like the power culture is very Christian, but the power culture is Christian in an impractical way. It's lifestyle Christianity. So like the power culture is lifestyle Christianity where it's using Christianity to kind of justify the choices that you make and lambast the choices that other people make. Whereas practical Christianity, I think, is literally just showing up very quietly for people. And I see that happen, and I love that. It's very hard for me to hold on to that right now. I haven't been Christian for almost a decade.
Yeah.
Like, at all. I just don't believe that Jesus died, rose again, isn't, like, hanging out, waiting to, like, come on back.
It's a weird
being
story.
Like, what's up? Like,
It's a weird story.
I don't think that's real. It's like...
It's hard to wrap your mind around
It's
if
not
it's
even
real
like-
or not real. It's
like,
intense.
I like grappled with like a lot of nuance when I was like very, very Christian, very Catholic. I'm very decidedly and have been very decidedly not Christian for a very long time. And nothing has swayed me back towards
Sure.
that or farther away from it. I honestly feel like some Christian churches are fucking fantastic.
Really?
That could be a pull quote. Some Christian churches are fucking fantastic.
That's great, though, because I don't feel like I have that perspective at all. I just feel like it's like a dying breed.
And I think I think I felt that way for the first like 5 years that I was out of the church. And also I think because I was never evangelical, I think I
Right.
have a little bit more of a bird's eye view of it. And I'm like, look, like that didn't work. But like I went to see Anne Lamott speak
Oh, cool.
a couple weeks ago with Sarah Dorado. And it was put on by this church. And it was a church that like was also being donating proceeds to Recovery Cafe, which is a fantastic organization
Downtown,
in Seattle. Yeah. That helps addicts and people kind of like gives them jobs and like gives addicts and people who are coming out of hard situations jobs. And
Kind of like that creepy place on Aurora that we all just sort of drive past right before the Taco Bell.
Honestly, I'll be real with you, Galen. You said creepy place in Aurora, and I just thought of the Cash for Gold mannequin.
She's so weird.
She's so weird.
She's
Is it
so
a she? I don't know.
No one knows. It doesn't matter.
Just like the sign, always in a tiny oval, just like swinging back and forth. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean,
I've actually had a pretty detailed nightmare about that mannequin.
we know
It came alive.
We know that
It talked to me.
We know that no one has gone into Cash for Gold, was drawn there
No.
because of the mannequin.
They're drawn there by desperation.
Exactly. And the mannequin
God.
just enforces that.
Oh my God. Do you feel like this right now? How about now?
Oh my God.
Oh my God, that Cash for Gold mannequin.
That's dark, man.
It's so dark.
That's dark. Aurora's dark. But
I feel like every city has an aurora that's dark. I grew up in Denver. Denver has an aurora that is really dark. It's where like all the bad shit happens. Is
you
aurora.
want to know something creepier, though?
Probably.
I feel like my college was darker.
You have to like give me more than that.
Nope.
Next question. Pass me the opener.
I don't know, just like the vibe. And like, I don't get like I get like a scary vibe on Aurora. Like, oh, I might get shot. Oh, there's a lot of hookers tonight. Oh, like, but at my college, there was like just this dense, foggy feeling over everything. Does that make any sense?
It makes literally no sense.
Well, that's fine. That's just for me to deal with. That's just me inside. But I mean, honestly, I think that's a religiously influenced feeling. Like maybe like there's some kind of simplicity to the depravity on Aurora that I can wrap my mind around.
Can you expand more on simplicity and depravity for me?
Like it's just more obvious. Like it's maybe more insidious.
Drugs and like...
Drugs, sex, money, lack of money.
Okay.
Violence.
Well, it's a very like...
You know, like a lot of the car places, you know, like you don't have to have good credit.
Where do you think I got my Volvo?
You did?
No. I mean, no. I don't have good credit, though.
I'm in the market for a car anyway, so if you got a hot tip.
I did not have good credit, so I ended up, but because I come from privilege, I was able to get a pretty decent loan anyway.
Yeah.
But I still got kind of screwed, so I would just buy a car in cash if you can.
Yeah, dude. Those monthly payments are
it sucks.
The worst.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's maybe not important, but that's just my sense about my college versus Aurora.
Yeah, I know the like subtle. That's what we were talking about a little bit. I think earlier with you were like, oh well, you know, Seattle like wasn't kind of complicit in this, and I was like, I think it's actually just a quieter blame. You know, but
I've never felt that in Seattle. This is trippy, but I've just never felt that here in the way I felt it at my college. And I don't know if that's just because there's maybe like an active vampire culture at my college. But you know that movie from the 80s about vampires? So there are just so many. They got great hair and stuff.
Lost Boys?
Lost Boys.
Yep.
Filmed in Santa Cruz. Mm-hmm. And Buffy was a UCSC graduate.
Yeah.
See? It's fucked up.
Buffy is a fucking hell now.
It's fucked up, man.
It's fucking fucked up. Buffy, do you know how much Buffy dies in that series? I'm going to say it and someone's going to correct me after they listen to it. But she dies a lot. She dies at least 3 or 4 times.
Well, it doesn't compare to 6 Feet Under, where somebody dies every episode. It's good.
I mean, someone dies every episode in South Park. It's Kenny, but like someone dies.
Fair point.
Noted.
Yeah, I think what you're saying about Seattle is important. I think it's true. And I think if complicit white people don't open up their eyes to what you're talking about, and I think probably the threat is more imminent as the city's culture changes, as the gentrification sort of gets exponential. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem is I don't bemoan progress for progress. I'm not like, oh, it's terrible that we have like...
Amazon's not necessarily a bad guy.
I don't know. I don't like Jeff Bezos, but whatever. No, I mean, but there's no one bad guy. The issue is that we are a city with no rent caps. We are a city with no affordable public transportation. Yeah. We are a city that cannot expand anywhere but vertically, which means we're going to get rid of single family housing, which means that like we're already dealing with noise issues and crime issues. We're pushing people of a lower income, which are disproportionately women or people of color, because we had racist rental laws until the 70s or 80s.
For sure.
Oh, Jones found a toy for Ellie and Cass's new dog that isn't here yet. And is just going to fucking destroy it.
And Seattle's really segregated.
It's very segregated, and that's because of those rental laws.
Yeah.
I mean...
and even beyond the rental laws, it's like if anyone was trying to rent or buy a house outside of,
I mean,
the south of the city, they would just be like... I
mean, most low-income people have been pushed out at least to Hillman City at this point. It was when I moved here, it was Columbia City. Now it's Hillman.
Yeah.
when I moved here, people were still could afford to live in the Central District. Now, most of my friends who make decent livings live in the Central District and
Right.
can barely afford it. And those are like white friends who like have, you know, good jobs at like Molly Moon, you know,
Right.
and like that's
Right, like a progressive, involved company in the city. Yeah,
and it's really hard. Okay, there's a squeaky.
fine. It's actually, that's part of the sound effects.
Yeah.
So
It's gonna be mad when you took that toy away.
I'm talking about like politics and race, and my dog just had a pink flamingo taken away from him, and he's so sad.
You're working out your own power structures, girl.
Yeah, buddy, I'm your power culture. I got you.
Yeah.
No, I think it's hard because I hear like all these liberal ideas espoused in Seattle, like intellectually, but then if someone says like, "Hey," but you know, most people of color and homeless people are being pushed further south because like everything's being really regulated or enforced around more wealthy areas.
Yeah.
Most really well-meaning, like what we were saying before, like well-meaning people will be like, "Oh, that's really unfortunate, but what can I do? I'm still trying to get by." And that's the problem with the city is people even who make a decent living have to struggle to get by and don't have the energy
Yeah.
or don't feel like they have the energy to care because there's still that feeling of like fighting for resources. It's like privileged people still feel like they're fighting for resources.
Right.
And like I'm a privileged person. I'm moving to Vashon Island just for a few months and then kind of reevaluating where I want to end up back in Seattle proper.
Cool.
But like, and that's because even though I have a lot of opportunity in many ways, I've just chosen to be like more on the lower side of income because I don't want to work for Amazon.
Right.
Like I've felt like I have to fight for my resources.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I live in a studio apartment on Capitol Hill and it's hard for me sometimes. I get defensive where I'm like, yeah, well, like people are being pushed out, but like I can barely afford it.
Right.
Instead of being like, oh yeah, like this is all fucked.
Totally.
This is all fucked. Like I try to like maintain a job in a creative industry and this is really difficult for me. What does that say about the larger, you know, culture that we're creating in our city where essentially we're going to be creating a tech culture. And I still, same way, the new Mars Hill, I swear to fucking God, is people in tech trying to justify why they're there. And I know that that's going to be like a dick thing to say, and I have friends who work in tech, like
Go there.
big tech companies, but they spend their time justifying why it's okay. And I do think it's not bad, but if you're going to be working in tech, making six figures in a city that's struggling to like provide for its homeless people and even provide for its middle income white people, like
Right.
you have to have some like fucking good reasons for not like giving some of your income to those causes. Like I cannot fathom in my mind. I have a lot of friends who work in tech and I get a little bit the same way I got testy with my friends who work or who went to Mars Hill, where I'm like, that's fine. You're progressive. You're
Right.
tolerant. You don't agree with the message. You don't
Yeah.
subscribe to like pushing people out or like taking over South Lake Union or like paying people like developers from Oakland like $200,000 so they can afford a studio when like a family of four can't.
Right.
What are you doing with all of this extra power that you have? You know, what am I doing too? Like, I don't make that much money, but I still have more money than some people. But like, it can always be turned around on me. But like,
But
I
you
do
do
think
have that social access where you do have that white privilege that
Yep.
you can use.
so. Like, all of my friends who are in tech or who make that money,
Yeah.
like, fine, donate to ACLU. Like,
Sure.
like figure out a way to like contribute to the community that in many ways you're a little bit helping to destroy.
Totally.
Like, and not personally. I think people tend to take those things like extremely personally the same way I would. But in the same way, like that I am able to afford a studio on Capitol Hill by what used to be halfway homes in the 90s that are now like way too expensive.
Right.
The way that I can afford those and people who used to be able to afford them can't. Like, I need to examine why the fuck I'm taking up that space.
Yeah.
Like, what did I do to deserve that space? Oh, I'm a writer. Like, who cares? Like, what am I actually contributing? And I'm not contributing, and I'm frustrated, and I get really tired of sirens, and I'm a little bit sensitive and a little bit neurotic. So, like, I need to, like, go to an island.
But in your defense, in your own defense in this conversation you just had with yourself?
That's fun. This is like a really intimate look at my brain.
No, it's incredible. I think that connection you just made between the complacency at Mars Hill to what's happening in the tech culture and people maybe not being aware of it or being too shielded by it to like think that getting out and rock climbing once a week is like enough of an outing.
Oh my God, spiritual bypassing. We could get into that for
to
hours.
like, you know, I don't know, to like add to the cultural life of the city or to find a way to recognize their own privilege or something. I don't know. I think you're right. I think that's a really good point. But there's something that drew you to the city, and you are inspired by the city.
I love Seattle. I'll never leave.
Me too.
Fuck, I'm going to end up moving to LA next year. Like, literally, the minute I said it, I was like, I'm moving to
never
LA. I
leave.
just felt it.
And, you know, I think that you have to be considerate about how you care for yourself in that, you know, because there's a reason that you are here and came here.
Why do you feel like you're still here, Galen?
I mean, because I have, other than like me having familial roots now that are really deep.
Babies.
And me like struggling to like be able, because like our kids got into a great alternative public school here that's still great because it has like this leftist Woody Guthrie lady who's like always teaching them Hebrew drinking songs and stuff. She's amazing. It's kind of like the way I remember grade school, just being like kind of fucked up and fun, you know, like she's rad. They do like art. They have this amazing reading curriculum. Like it's a great place in the city. And because it's an option school, we can live anywhere within Seattle city limits for them to stay at that school. So we have to be able to afford to stay in the city, which is impossible.
God, that's so stressful. I
Yeah,
get stressed about my fucking dog.
But for me, I feel like it's almost like a point of pride where I feel like I have been involved in and invested in this city's music culture for the past 10 years.
Yeah, you have.
And I feel entitled because of that investment to like at least monitor its progress or sort of like
Yeah, you want to stick around to see what happens.
totally. And that's not just selfish. Like I feel like these are friends that I've made and people that we've played shows together and gone on tours together and, you know, like people that were writers and were, you know, contributors to blogs and that were whatever, and some that still are. But
R.I.P. blogs, am I right?
But most of them have, you know, that were peripherally involved in Seattle music have moved on to other jobs because, you know, there isn't enough of a art center to justify a blog and the medium's changing.
Yeah. I mean, I do
But
feel
that's-
like there's
but that's
actually
why
more money in arts writing now than there has been in the past few years, but
That's good.
it's just more very specific. I think blogs are dying a little
Right.
bit, so people are forced to go to publications, and I think it's a little bit more or like there's a more like a pitch process where you can get paid. Not like a lot. I have a full-time job, but like
Right. In addition to being a writer.
yeah, it's a good supplemental income.
Yeah. I just wanted to congratulate you. You're the inaugural female to the podcast.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Thank you for taking this risk. We intend to change that as the podcast continues to pave new ground in this new art
How many
form.
dudes did we get through? What happened?
5 or 6, you know, 5 or 6.
That seems about right statistically.
Right? I mean, it's not that bad, right? What is the how much on the dollar? 70 cents on the dollar?
I mean, yeah. So
we're-
you're worse.
We're 10%, right? 6
Yeah, we're a
man,
little better.
6%.
Are you looking to have me make you feel better right now?
And I just want you to be a spokesperson for the entire female
For all of
gender,
women.
please.
What do you want to know about women? I'll tell you. I feel like both of you as married men have some questions.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we can all agree here at this tiny table that Mel Gibson taught us all that we needed to know.
He did with What Women Want.
Helen Hunt,
Helen fucking Hunt.
Twister. Let's play the word association game. Keep going, girl.
Are we trying to get to Kevin Bacon? Oh, wait. Bill Pullman, While You Were Sleeping. No, that was Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton was in Twister. Every time.
Was he in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle? That movie where the wet nurse...
Independence Day.
Bill Pullman was in Independence Day, not Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
Bill Pullman's the president?
Yeah.
Good on him.
Good on him. He did a good job. He was boring, which is he was complacent, which is why this happened.
Which is why the aliens came
He's probably
and shot
from
all over.
Seattle.
Holy shit. Okay. No, for reals. That piece that you wrote on Seattle music was really important to me. And honestly, I feel like if we had like some kind of canon or lexicon of music writing or sort of, I don't know, just sort of like acknowledgments of Seattle music moments, I think that your writing about it kind of, made it sedentary in a way that it has never been. So thank you.
Thank you. That's really nice.
No, I really mean that. And that's coming as a fan of like Damien Jurado and Bazan.
Yeah.
From afar and then here in the city too.
Do you feel like, did you come to Seattle because of what those guys were doing up here? I know you kind of like alluded to that earlier.
Yeah. I mean, I just came here because from my limited exposure to like what it was like playing shows in LA for myself, and then like the Strokes coming out of New York or something. I was like, okay, well, New York doesn't really feel right because I'm not like into leather yet. Now, mind you, this is 2005, so
2020, it's going to be all leather on Galen all the time.
And then LA just seemed kind of fucked up. And then I hear these two, and I would like go see Bazan or Damien in San Francisco all the time. And it was really influential. I just felt like they were, and Elliott Smith too. Yeah, they just were like championing something else.
I remember the day my mom told me Elliott Smith died. I was in high school in Colorado. That sucked. And the worst part was that I came home from school and she said, and I remember this sentence so clearly because it was so funny later. She goes, she goes, Kathleen, she'd bought me, whenever something bad happened, my mom and dad bought me Ben and Jerry's fish food. Ice cream.
I love fish food with that marshmallow core.
Yeah, with the like little fudgy fish.
Good God. I don't want to sexualize that, but keep going.
Now it's associated with sadness because of my parents. Because like anytime something bad would happen in my life, they would like get me a pint. And so like now when I eat it, I'm like, oh, it's marshmallow sadness. I still eat it, but
yeah, right.
It's much more emotional, and I don't love attaching emotion to food. But I came home, my mom had bought me a pint of fish food ice cream, and she goes, Kathleen, I was a sophomore or junior, I think, and she was like,
wow,
that artist that you like, the sad one.
The sad one.
I was like, which one? Be specific.
You're like Bobby McFerrin?
I was like, Justin Timberlake? Oh my God, no.
That like, Senorita song was pretty powerful.
She's like, he died. And I was like, what? And she goes, I read it on Yahoo News.
That's amazing. The Yahoo News. Like, the Yahoo News.
I was like, the way, so people are like, I've had a lot of, especially since I moved to the Northwest and have friends who are older than I am, like, late 30s, early 40s, who were like, I remember where I was when I heard Elliott Smith passed away. I was like, in a bar with friends, or like, waking up, I had someone tell me, or like, it was this very emotional thing. And for me, it was, 2:50 p.m. coming home from school and my mom being like, I read on Yahoo News.
That's amazing.
That Elliott Smith died. No, I read on Yahoo News that sad guy that you like died. Here's some ice cream. And I was like, what?
Elliott Smith is one of the artists that I admire, that I don't even have words about him passing or dying.
Yeah, that
it's like it's too. He's my Kurt Cobain. So like the way when I was,
you and I were both too young to really absorb the passing of Kurt Cobain.
Right.
Like that was, definitely too young. Even my brother, who was born in 1980, was still a little bit too young to fully absorb that.
Yeah.
Like the people who that really affected are much older at this point, you know. So I hear people who say, you know, like who are in their early 30s say like, oh yeah, when Kurt Cobain died, I was like, hey, like you were sentient, like you were like absorbing emotions at that point. But I think it's when you spend time with an artist's catalog, especially, you know, with someone, and I understand that like with Kurt Cobain, who wrote so starkly about a lot of mental illness and that. So I understand why that affected people so much. But I think Elliott Smith was the first artist. And, you know, I remember when Jason Molina died a few years ago. I remember exactly where I was. And that was actually the first moment when, like, it was Sarah who told me that Jason died.
Yeah.
And it was very soon after that benefit that you guys played that we went to, where Jason like friended everyone who was there. And so I was like friends with him on Facebook, even though I didn't meet him. And he was such like huge influence on me, just like he's one of the artists that made me love music enough to want to like force my opinion on everyone.
Can I pause you? Because I feel the same way about Jason Molina, that he was like a real turning point for me.
Yeah.
In addition to Elliott Smith, and I think I got into Jason Molina before Elliott Smith. How did you get into Jason Molina?
So, this is fun. I don't know if you guys read, I did a column in The Stranger this past winter and spring called Bands I Pretended to Like for Boys.
You know, I've done some research. I didn't bring you into this tiny room for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, but you have to understand, like...
I read at least 6 of them.
At least some of them. I read at least a few.
A lot of those boys. So.
You don't know all of those boys.
True. Just a few.
I did reference some guy in there. That was a fun one.
Boing.
Boing.
Shawing.
But people listening aren't going to be like, Kathleen Tarrant, I know her, that well-known music writer. There's no such thing. No one fucking knows who I am.
But don't you think that Seattle's small enough where we do know who you are, and a lot of people know who you are?
Oh God, I don't know that.
Not in a, like a weird way, but like in a good kind of reaffirming way.
I think possibly some people know my name. I don't think people. Yeah, maybe that's totally possible.
But I mean more than that. That like not just your local notoriety, but that your writing has been able to like embody something for the city that not a lot of people have been able to say. I'm serious.
Oh, Galen, that's so nice. Thank you.
But I mean it because, like, okay, just to give a little context, like you're writing for Sound on the Sound, right? Which was kind of late in the Sound progression.
Yeah, it was after I moved, which was early 2011. I think we called it for Sound on the Sound 2013.
Right. So it was like kind of the end of the blog. Mm-hmm. But, you know, Josh and Abby had sort of been instrumental in making our band a band, you know.
I know, they're so great. They'll never take credit, too. It's so annoying.
But I remember you writing about us and sort of the Seattle's cultural moment about everybody kind of getting into the fun of our band or Hacienda Hands.
That was fun.
It was fun in a weird, good way. I don't know.
It was so fun. That was Jacket Summer.
Yeah, Damien.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then, so I like, you know, you were writing there and then, you know, correct me as I'm wrong, but then you know, were able to sort of take on comprehensive tasks like fucking nailing Seattle's, you know, what's the word where you're like
Christian problem?
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry. That's so mean.
Dealing with Seattle's Christian problem, which is no small undertaking, and doing that in writing in a long form piece that succeeded, you know, and was able to sort of teach people that weren't a part of it and really speak to people that were a part of it. And then, you know, to now, you know, your contributions to The Stranger.
Yeah, I've taken a little bit of a break since the column ended, just because I have a full-time job in marketing for this great apparel company called Girlfriend Collective.
We had a whole podcast with this guy Shit Ghost, who's amazing, but we talked most of the time about digital marketing, which is something I don't understand.
Yeah, no one does.
I don't know what it is.
It's crazy.
If you could explain it to me, that'd be great, but no press.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I can. I'm much more comfortable explaining like the ephemeral nature of humanity and our relationships to each other than I am explaining like clicks.
Right.
But I do marketing for a full-time job, and then during that time I was writing that column, so it was weekly, and a weekly column is kind of a lot of pressure.
But during the election, you opted out of writing that.
I opted out of writing
which
one.
I thought was a great choice. And I think that honesty like has a voice that people can connect to. That's rare.
Oh, thank you.
You know what I mean?
I honestly came with, I was 2 days past deadline, and they had to like go to, it actually didn't show up in print that week because I missed the print deadline. And I texted Sean and I was like, I can't do it. And he was like, what do you mean? You have to. And I was like, I can't do it. I just went through a breakup. I just moved to Capitol Hill. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what my life looks like. I can't write about Rush.
And not to mention, something just happened nationally that's a little
surreal. It was like as I was going through like a very like personal grieving time, and then like a national grieving time, and it was like so overwhelming for me. I had to still show up to work every day at 9 a.m. and I did not have the energy at the end of the day to kind of do anything but like take a couple shots and like lay down and go to sleep. Right. And Sean was just like, this is why he's my favorite editor that I've had. He's like, oh yeah, just write about that.
Yeah.
He's like, just spit it out.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to make it pretty. Like I'm pretty sure it wasn't in the print edition. But it was just, digital, like online. And it was, that like little break that I took.
I read it.
And oddly enough, I get the most feedback on that one than I do about like any of my well-crafted pieces on like that guy like pretended to like Wilco for. But
if you need something fun to do when you look back on your body of work after this podcast, when you're reflecting on your contributions to the city's culture,
a few days of reflection that I'll do.
That meandering strange comment about Bob Dylan, on your Bob Dylan one, that's me. But I fucking nailed that comment.
Did you actually comment on my Bob Dylan piece? I don't read the comments.
Well, you should read that
because I
comment.
Read one.
Because I worked hard on that fucking comment. That comment is like the meaning of life. You want to see the meaning of life? You start at that comment.
Galen, I was reading...
You started that slog comment.
I was reading the comments until like a couple columns in.
What number is Bob Dylan?
It was like 4 or 5. I don't remember. But it was like on one of mine, I got this like really abusive comment.
Yeah, I thought they're bad. Yeah.
There were a bunch of bad ones. My favorite one, I actually had a friend who I wrote a piece on one of them was about the Grateful Dead, who I really love. And
you wrote on the Grateful Dead?
Yeah, one of them's about the Grateful Dead.
I don't think I read that one.
And I like focuses mostly on Bob Weir shorts, like his like little Daisy Dukes.
He's terrible.
I love him.
He's the best, but he's terrible.
I know.
He's
those
so
short
bad.
shorts. Oh my God, I've seen so much Bob Weir thigh in my life.
Did you see that Bob Weir documentary?
Yeah.
Isn't it great?
It's so great.
Don't you think that point about him playing more shows than any other human is true?
It's so true.
Yeah.
And the thing is like he doesn't seem to get better. Like, I think he, like, kind of, like, defies the 10,000 hours.
That's so fucking true. Have you ever listened to them at the Pyramids?
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's so bad. That was the whole point. So, like, in my Grateful Dead piece, one of the reasons I ended up loving the Dead was because, like, they were so casual about just, like, being like, Yeah, we're not good sometimes, most of the time. Like,
Right.
the records...
And it's not in a Mac DeMarco way where he's
No,
just
no,
like,
no.
fuck you,
it.
this is
No,
fun.
they earnestly try.
They're like, this is the
We're
best.
trying so hard.
We're at the pyramids right now. We want to play good.
Yeah,
but these
we can't.
harmonies just
They're just
don't
not working.
work.
They can't sing. I love that. Like, the Grateful Dead just, like, can't do it right. And the best thing is they have the most, like, vibrant bootleg community
Yes.
of all time. So, like, that's why I can't help but love them, because they're such goofy weirdos who are like, we're not a very good band.
Yeah, but
do you want to record us unprofessionally for your
the time.
friends
Yeah.
for 40 years? We're into it. We're into it. Like, how can
Come
you
on.
hate that?
Pre
And-
72, they're pretty badass though.
no, they're good. Like, that's the thing, is I genuinely, like, really love a
Great
lot
band.
of Dead songs.
Great
like, like,
Terrible live, but I wish I was at the acid test. If I had a time machine.
no,
please,
of course. And you
please,
know,
baby
like,
Jesus.
one of my friends, when I worked at my first job when I moved here, and you guys knew me then, was I worked at Cheeseburger, that, like, internet
Yeah.
place. I was an office
Did
manager.
that do digital marketing?
Jesus, just stop trying to use that word.
I just wish I knew what it meant.
I know. Just
Tell me
let
what
it-
it means besides
No.
MailChimp.
No, let it be the Holy Spirit. It's
just-
around. It's not really anything.
I'm just so afraid of it.
I
And
know.
I wish
It's
I
just
could
it's
get
just
a job
part of a
doing
thing.
it.
I know. We all do.
Maybe one day.
One day when we all work for Amazon. No, one of the guys in tech was like, "Hey, here you like the Dead." Like, he said it to me conspiratorially as the office
Badass.
manager, and I was like, "I like the Dead." He's
Yeah.
like, "Do you have a Walkman?" I was like, "I have a Walkman."
Wait, how old is this guy? Is he 34? Does he have a ponytail?
No, he's like mid-40s.
Okay.
No ponytail, clean cut.
Nice.
And he
Thank God.
was like, "Do you have a Walkman?" I was like, "I do." He's like, "Bring it into work tomorrow." And I was like, "All right."
Because he was going to let you listen to one of his tapes at work?
No,
like
this
on your
is,
lunch
no,
break?
this is the best. I walk in, I bring my Walkman the next day, and Scott just comes up to my desk with a box full of bootlegs
That's
from
rad.
the Dead.
That's rad.
And he was just like, "Here." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, I used to be kind of a deadhead. My wife doesn't think I should keep these anymore. Do you want all of them? And I was like, so I just like spent probably 4 or 5 months just like
Nice.
at my desk listening to like Dead bootleg tapes
That's
on my
cool.
Walkman, and just like not really talking about it. Like, I wasn't like, this is something I should share with people.
Because you should.
I've never actually shared it with anybody. This has never been like a party story. Like,
This
hey,
is rad.
for like 5 months in like 2011,
I listened to
like Dead,
Dead
bootleg
bootlegs.
tapes
From what's his name? From Steve?
from Scott.
Scott.
Shout out to Scott Porad. Like just a box of bootleg like Dead tapes. I listened to them from probably like March to August, just like every day, just like Walkman, like walking around the office, just being like, like this is an interesting take on Friend of the Devil. Like, it's just like a weird time
It
in
is.
my life.
Yeah.
But I love the Dead so much.
Yes, me too. And then at my alma mater,
And I'm like, you definitely need 2 drummers. They don't need 2 drummers. They need to
Like,
cut that shit out immediately.
like, why is
Why are there
Mickey
two
Hart
drummers?
such an asshole? And
Such a
why is
fucking asshole.
Billy Kreutzmann such a fucking skeleton that's doing nothing?
Nothing at all. Why would you like have 2 drummers and then make music that so clearly doesn't need it?
Has no backbone
Like,
whatsoever.
it's never like literally no one's listened to the Dead and been like, but the drumming. It's
Yeah,
not
they're-
like
well, they're not even like, this is a sick groove.
it's not like math. Yeah, like it's not like math. It's not
They're
like
like-
they're like King Crimson being like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna like hold down these one-handed 16ths.
No, they're
like,
like-
this isn't like a thing that's gonna happen in the Dead.
They're like, yeah, this feels good. This feels like Sonic cotton balls. Right on. Right on. Keep it up,
We
Jerry.
need like a groove, but we need a groove that only 2 mediocre drummers can bring us. Like,
Holy shit,
So
that's
dumb. Like, why would you do that to me? Every time I listen to the Dead, and also like sometimes it would almost be like, are they trying to do like syncopation? No, they're just off beat. Like, like I would listen to these like Dead tapes from like 78, and I'd be like, oh, are they doing like a, all right, like kind of like a mathy, like Jethro Tull? Nope, they're just fucking up.
Nope, they're just banging on
They're just
cardboard boxes
really
or whatever
bad at their jobs.
for their entire lives.
By the way,
Yeah.
like someone from the Dead camp is going to hear this and be like,
I hope so.
I hate you.
No,
Okay, that's one thing I was going to say. And then that dude from my college got a job as the Grateful Dead archivist, which is kind of my dream job.
My eyes just went so wide. That's basically what I did unpaid.
Exactly.
I still want that. I love the Dead. I make fun of them so much, but I still there was not one moment of listening to 20 Grateful Dead tapes that wasn't full of pure joy.
Right? His guitar tones are so crystal clear sometimes.
They're so beautiful, and they're just so full of joy. They're just so full of joy.
Yeah, Jerry's a godsend for sure.
So beautiful. I just love him. Also, that's a good Ben and Jerry's flavor. Cherry Garcia. Yeah, Cherry Garcia. It's like vanilla ice cream with cherries and
Yeah, I don't know. I would go fish food though because I hate the band Fish.
I hate the band Fish.
But
the first song a boy ever played for me, learned how to play and played
that was
for
one
me,
of your
was
articles.
a Fish song.
That was one.
I did not do a Fish article.
What's the one? Isn't there one where somebody played something for you? It wasn't Fish?
No, that same boy was the boy who gave me a mixtape that had the Doors on it, which was
Doors.
Yeah.
You know, I also dislike the Doors.
Fucking hate.
Do you know
Doors.
why?
Because they're the worst.
I like the Doors.
Okay.
But I think that Jim Morrison is the worst
person,
laziest piece of shit drug poet ever.
The worst.
Bob Dylan's a drug poet, right? You just fucking
but he
fill
says
the
beautiful
page.
things.
He does.
He says really gorgeous
things
amazing. That as a writer I'm that's a beautiful
and
turn of
really
phrase.
simple things sometimes.
But those are the hardest to say, right?
Exactly.
So Bob Dylan makes saying
What's your favorite
simple,
Bob Dylan song?
Tomorrow's a Long Time.
Nothing to me at all.
Yeah. Well, no.
That's every Bob Dylan song I've ever heard.
You just did.
No, tomorrow's
I'm not singing into a
just
mic.
a
Are you
long
fucking
time.
kidding me?
No. That's not tomorrow's a long time.
No. The If Today Was Not an Endless Highway.
Tomorrow on a crooked trail.
Yeah, that one.
And remember the same song I was singing.
You weren't singing it with the right melody, Galen.
Melody.
Also, I can't believe now there's me singing poorly on tape. That's such a bummer.
Forever. And we're going to send it to
Can you pitch
to
correct
Steve.
it?
To
Can you
Steve.
pitch correct it, Carrot?
Okay.
Just auto-tune the shit out of that one spot.
Can I tell you another thing I've been impressed about you?
Oh, shit. Yes, you can.
Remember when you worked at Lively?
I do.
Which was an internet
A shit show.
No, I don't want. I don't know any of the. I don't want any of the gossip, but I do. It's like a music industry related tech startup.
We recorded live shows. Yeah, that was our game.
It's a cool.
Yeah, I was the marketing
maybe.
manager there.
But it's difficult to make a living when you don't own the content yourselves, right?
Yeah, it's very difficult. It was a hard model to follow through on, no matter how it was managed as a company.
But that VC seemed tits, man.
It was super dope. Dope. Oh fuck!
I'm impressed that you've been able to sort of string together jobs that are from my perspective, also tech related, but you also get to keep some of your integrity as a writer / artist.
It is.
I don't know how you're doing that.
It's a fun mix of luck and the fact that I'm an extrovert. I will say that. And I think I kind of tried to deny that for a few years because I was sad. I was I'm an introvert. And then I was oh shit, I'm just depressed.
Yeah, totally. And this is boring without other people.
Yeah, I'm also super bored.
I hear that.
But I really like people. So it's, moving to a new city was really hard for me. But it was also, I'm uniquely suited to do that. And especially when I was 23, I just had nothing to lose and was just very excited.
What made you move to Seattle?
I had always wanted to live in Seattle. I applied to Seattle U when I was a teenager.
I applied there for a master's program, did not get in.
I didn't get into Seattle U when I was a teenager. And I was whatever, I'll just move here with no money later.
Samesies.
Yeah. I was it's fine.
I worked at Half Price Books.
Really?
Yeah, when I was fresh off the boat.
Oh, nice. So basically,
that's a culturally sensitive way to put that.
Yeah, just looks I'll remember that Galen is a little Brazilian but pretty white.
No, I'm actually not ethnically Brazilian at all.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you were.
My mom is from Brazil, but we're Italian colonizers.
Oh.
If you go back.
Shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay, I see it now.
There was like a porcelain factory and stuff. It's fucked up, but I'm still gonna get those
I heard
crests.
porcelain factory, and I thought you were talking about your mom.
Like that's the way I describe my mom.
You're so
She's
white.
such a porcelain factory.
I'm so sorry, Galen's mom.
That's amazing.
Garrett's gonna die. You were like, there was a porcelain factory, and I just imagined.
The porcelain factory. That is my mom. Yeah.
It's like the way you tell people you're like a white Brazilian.
I'm just a porcelain factory girl. Yeah.
Porcelain factory.
I'm gonna use it at the merch booth.
Oh my God, please do. God. Garrett's gonna throw up.
All right. Anyway, lively porcelain factory. My
So
mom, Brazilian
how I ended
colonizer.
up in Seattle.
Yeah, how'd you get here, colonizer?
I'm like so much paler than you too. So
You're not Italian.
I'm French. But why do you think I have a weak chin and
You should have
like doe eyes?
pride that you're French right now.
Right now, for the minute, French are so racist.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Paris? So racist.
I've never been to Europe.
Really?
No.
I thought Pickwick went to Europe.
I haven't been to Europe yet.
Please, baby Jesus, I wish.
We'll get there.
Thank you.
We'll get there. I'm in Pickwick now.
See, you do the digital marketing and we'll get there.
Oh my God, I don't even know what that is.
I thought you did, imposter.
I told you, it's the Holy Spirit. It's everywhere.
Okay, I'll just pray to only that one. That one and Mary.
Please.
I'm going to pray to the digital
Please,
marketing
digital
part,
marketing
part
and
of the trilogy
Mary.
and Mary, who's not part of the trilogy, but we'll just draw an extra line.
Would you let me tell this goddamn story?
I'm sorry.
God damn it. So I was 22 and I was writing for the Denver Post for free and working a bunch of other jobs. I was working at the Apple store in Boulder. I was living in Boulder, Colorado.
Nice.
After I dropped out of college. So I dropped out of college when I
Why'd
was...
you drop out?
Because I had an eating disorder and I had to go to the hospital. And it's
I think
like...
you wrote about that. Maybe just
I
online.
have written about it. I've given some talks about it.
I thought that was really cool that you were
Thanks.
honest about that.
Yeah, I think it's something that people don't talk about. I think people talk about their bodies a lot, but I don't think people talking about like eating
sure.
disorders quite as much. So I had a pretty severe eating disorder when I was about 19 to 21. And then I decided to drop out of college when I was 20 to start seeking outpatient treatment in Colorado, closer to my parents. Realized I needed inpatient treatment because I was not doing great, and
Jesus.
ended up dropping out of college in order to go spend about 5 or 6 months in the hospital.
Jesus. So they have this thing here in Seattle, the Emily program, right?
Yeah, they have a bunch of...
But it's
they have
not.
a few.
Doesn't have inpatient facilities, right?
I don't know if the Emily program does. I do know that. So the hospital I went to is called the ERC, the Eating Recovery Center in Denver. And they actually do have a branch in Washington that I've had a few friends work at that I've given some talks at that are actually a very good resource. They have inpatient programs that have like hospital facilities. So I was in outpatient treatment, and then I just was not getting better. And my partner at the time, Phil, was really sweet, and he was like, I have to go to Durango. He was a firefighter in Durango during the summers. And so Phil was like, I'm going away. I don't know how you're going to do. And I was like, I don't know either. And then a few weeks in, I realized like I was not doing well. I was overworked. I was working a couple different jobs, and was like, I'm not getting better. I'm not able to gain weight on my own. And I had just seen like 3 years prior, I saw my aunt die from the same thing. So I was like, this is not fair to my parents. So I checked myself in. I called my parents and I was like, I think I need help, like beyond what's happening now. And I was like, I Googled, eating disorder hospitals in Denver. Wow. Eating Recovery Center came up. They were very new at the time. Now they're kind of everywhere, which is great. And called them, and they got me in 4 or 5 days later, and I was inpatient. So
you like on the phone, you told them,
I was like, whoops, I'm in trouble.
and they were really sympathetic and
they,
helpful.
Yeah, they took me through, like, they asked me what I eat every day. They asked me, like, do you know how much you weigh? And, they asked me, like, how I was feeling, if I had any resources, like what my support system was. And then they had me come in for an intake which is like where they like kind of do a
Right.
medical examination. And then they recommended me for hospitalization because I needed some monitoring because I was a little lady at that point. And
It's cool that they had those like that facility.
they're great. And actually, I didn't realize at the time how rare that was. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people traveled to Denver to go to the ERC.
Right.
And I was very lucky that I just happened to Google where I needed to go, and it happened to be like 30 minutes from where I was. But now the ERC is in Washington, which is fantastic. They're great. I give talks there sometimes, and
That's cool.
so they're great. And then after I got out of the ERC, my release date, my like anniversary date from recovery is September 11th, which is like so on. Yeah, fuck yeah. So like on September 11th, I'm like, yay! And everyone else is like sad. And I'm like, but also like I did a thing. And everyone's
Right.
like, we don't care. And I'm like, please care about me. It's fine. I've learned to deal with
That
it.
does sound like an uphill battle.
I mean, Coltrane's birthday is September 11th.
Man.
Yeah.
Well,
He has to deal with that. I'm so sorry, Coltrane.
you guys will have that
This is our friend's baby.
Yeah,
just
you
like
guys will have
context.
that as like your your auntie moment. You can celebrate with him on that day.
I was like bummed when Coltrane got born on September 11th because I was like, yeah, but like it's my fucking anniversary from the hospital, you fucking asshole.
Another reason that someone's taken away from my anniversary.
Maybe you gave Sarah too much Pitocin.
Did you see The Business of Being Born by Ricky Lake?
No,
The documentary?
no.
Good. Changed my life. It's incredible. Talks a lot about Pitocin.
Oh, but so after I got out of the hospital, I just feel like we can't talk about Pitocin anymore
Fine.
without more. Like, I feel like fluids are going to come next. Like,
I
but
saw
what
my
about the
wife
afterbirth
give birth to both children on our mattress.
that you still have.
Do you sleep? on
Actually, no, I threw it in the dump. By myself, which wasn't easy.
I know, you're a strong man. You looked at me like you needed validation right now. You were like,
It was a queen. Pillow top. That shit isn't light. And maybe the box spring too.
so like my wife carried children, but I carried a mattress
To the dump.
to the dump.
With the band trailer.
Oh my God, no one's going to listen to this.
No, they don't need to. But that's on them. That's on them.
Oh my God.
There's no reason to. That's on them.
That's on them.
Yeah.
That's like personal responsibility.
No, I'm talking about your body of work. Remember, that was the big thing
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
saying. And lively, you've been able, but also to work in relatively creative jobs through the entire course of your writing career here in Seattle.
what I did-
And now you've
Yeah.
decided that you're going to peace out on Seattle and move to Vashon Island, which is a peripheral.
Vashon, yeah, but Vashon's the tits.
Yeah, I mean, it is tits. It's cool. I clean some windows in Vashon. It's cool. It's a short ferry ride. It's at some times of the day.
I love Vashon, or I love Seattle so much. And I have remained in this city for 6 years, like very much in the middle of it, like engaging with it. I'm not a native and I'll never claim to be, but I have always felt very attached to the city and very curious about it.
Yeah.
And I've never loved the hill. It's a little, I'm from Colorado. I went to college in Montana.
Yeah.
Like I don't totally know what people are.
Yeah.
And I moved to Seattle and lived in Ballard and Queen Anne primarily. And which is kind of a mix, like North Seattle's kind of a mix of like weird, Seatown vibes and then like
Which is
you know,
great,
city
and
vibes, which is
changing
great.
and fading.
And changing very fast. So like the problem was I moved to the hill after a recent breakup or a breakup in October and like needed a place near work. I work downtown and was like, I'll move to the hill. I spend time on the hill. I go to tons of shows on the hill. Like I'm so familiar with that area. I was like, I can live there for sure. And then I moved there and like very quickly realized like, fuck, I don't like it.
Yeah. What don't you like?
It's too loud. And that's dumb.
It's fair.
I'm not old. Like I think
I'm not old.
I'm not old. I'm fine. I think we tend to overstate our age at this. I think it's
Yeah.
like cool to be cranky. Like it's this weird thing where like, I'm like, oh man, like I'm 26. I'm so old. It's like, no, I'm 29. I'm not old. Like
29 doesn't sound as bad as saying 26, though. You're
Totally.
getting old.
I'm getting there.
There's something there.
Right. There's some crow's feet. You see my gray hairs. That's fine. But, it's not like my age. It's just my temperament.
Yeah. Are you excited about this move to Vashon?
I'm so excited. I'm really stressed out right now because it has to happen fairly quickly.
But the benefits
outweigh
the sort of temporary stress.
Dude, I'm gonna have a few like fucking campouts.
That's really cool. But that seems really cool that you've identified that, Montana, even Colorado, just sort of your roots are different than sort of the, not even concrete jungle, but just like sort of the annoyances of living in a busy...
I'm just really sensitive.
That's
and I
cool.
think after 6 years, I've been like, okay, I love this city. I want to stay here. I want to stay invested here.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what that looks like. And I'm really sad because I don't think if I moved back to Ballard now, I would find the same kind of respite that I felt when I lived there before.
It's gone, I think.
It's gone. And that sucks because when I lived there before, it felt very similar to how Vashon feels to me now.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of mourning that. And in a weird way, I think I need a few months to mourn the loss of the city that I came to.
Yeah.
And, I don't feel like I can point fingers at anybody, but I do feel like I just need a minute to be like, okay, where do I fit anymore? Like, I don't fit on the hill.
Yeah.
I don't fit in Ballard. I don't really fit anywhere. I can't reasonably stand Vashon forever. Like, it's like a fucking, like, in the summer, that commute's going to be so dreamy. Like, it'll be warm and nice, but in the winter, I'm just going to be like, kill me.
Struck by lightning constantly.
Yeah, like dead.
On a boat.
Like dead forever. I'm scared of water. Like, I'm scared of water and I moved here.
You just need a good dive.
Don't shake your head at me, Garrett.
You're moving to an island.
I know, fucking give me a minute. Just like, give me a minute. Come on.
Hey, you just need a good dive watch. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
I'm pointing at Galen in like a yo bro, but also like in like a get yourself together kind of way.
Watch people don't do yo bro stuff.
Yo bro.
Do you have a sense of how your sort of retreat to Vashon will affect or hopefully inspire your writing?
That's a hard one because I think it's really cliche. I was joking with my friend Matt Beatty today. He was like, "Oh my god."
Walden.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha.
No, but like not even that. He was just like, "Hey, what if you wrote a record out there? Like that would be the best press release
for sure.
ever."
That would be a great press release for a non-musician to just fucking go to Vashon and write a record. And then what is the product? It doesn't matter. Your product is digital marketing. Whatever you fucking do, you
product
just...
is digital marketing. Like you like live in like a vintage Airstream for 3 months. You're just like, I need to get away from it all. I wrote these about my feelings. Like I just...
Does it have a toilet?
Yeah, it has a shower.
That's great.
It has a washing machine. Whoa. Yeah, this is not me roughing it. This is like fucking luxe.
That's glamping, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
but
it's
hey,
fucking glamping. Gross.
hey, maybe you move to Hillman City.
Possible. And I think I just need some time to figure out what I want. But as far as writing goes, I think I just like I think living on the hill, there are so many people around, I tend to overbook myself just because it's like, oh, you're there and you're there and like we'll hang out. And then I'm like single. So it's very easy for me to kind of fill my schedule with friends and
Swing.
boing. Boners everywhere. I hate that I said that. But no, so I just... Move past it.
Hey, man, as the inaugural female on this podcast, you can say whatever you want.
I represent all women. All of them.
Yeah.
Like, all of them.
Yeah.
But no, I just feel like it's been really easy for me to fill my time with, I knocked over a box.
Don't worry, it's just an empty cardboard box of old merch or
nothing.
whatever this is. Yeah.
It's been really easy to fill my time with people, and I think it's actually would be good for me to spend some time kind of out on my own with my dog and like I have a fairly social job. I work with people.
Yeah, the extrovert needs her Thoreau moment.
I do my Thoreau moment.
All right.
Thoreau always has to come back into it.
Never read it. I tap out at Whitman, man. I stick with the OG. Fuck Thoreau.
Is this podcast going to be called I Tap Out at Whitman?
No, it's going to be called From the Green Room.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, cute.
All right.
It was Alex's idea.
Guys, I need to go to sleep. I'm so tired. I
So
have
do
to
we.
pack my whole fucking
Tonight?
apartment.
Tonight?
Not tonight, but in the next week. And I'm in New York next week. So I have to pack it this week and then I have to move the week after. So by the time this podcast's out, I'll like look back on this and be like, oh, that's fucking crazy. But like right now, I'm just like,
Thank you.
I'm going to die.
I do want to ask one more question.
Do it.
I want to know sort of like, do you have any thoughts or goals about either your political activism and or writing, and any vision for where you want to take it? Because that, just for me being peripherally involved in your life and hearing you tonight, it seems like you're most pumped about those things.
Yeah, I feel really committed to those things. I think right now I'm in kind of what we were talking about earlier, where one of the biggest realizations I had this winter was that I'm very, very late to the party. So
Which party?
the party of caring about things outside of myself.
Right. The privilege party.
The privilege party. And so I think right now I'm in a pretty big period of listening,
Yeah.
which makes it, I'm now kind of shifting. I'm trying to find my lane. So one thing I keep hearing is and observing is that if you find what you care about the most, like that is the key to sustained activism, right? So
Right.
you can't care about everything. A lot of fucked up things are happening, but you can't do all of them. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
And that's not how people are effective.
That's good.
So I feel like I'm now kind of trying to shift a little bit into listening enough to figure out where my particular
Yeah.
talents would be the most helpful.
Can I say one thing? And I don't know if this is helpful, but I feel like you have such like a unique kind of direct ability with your writing voice. And not that we need any more spokespeople from the privileged position, but you acknowledging your privilege in the way that you acknowledged that you couldn't write a column about a boy you liked in the band he turned you on to when Trump won.
Wouldn't that be a little perverse, being like, Trump just won? Anyway, so when I was 16,
But I
totally made out.
But I mean that like you can speak from your position of privilege, and you can speak about how you're learning to listen.
I think that that's something I want to explore. Thank you. And I think that's something I want to explore. I think it's something that right now I see this incredible like Ijoma Luo. Like she's an amazing writer in Seattle who's been getting so much more traction after Trump won. She's a woman of color, and
Is she the one that organized the rally?
she didn't organize the rally. No,
Okay.
she writes. She writes around town. She's also writes for national publications, and I've been following her, and I've been seeing like also just a lot more like women and women of color getting kind of more national attention now. And I kind of just want to figure out, like, I want to follow a lead. And the music writing thing is kind of an interesting thing because that's kind of where I've lived for the past, 9 years of my life. Is what I care about the most is like music and pop culture. But I also don't know like how that's going to carry forward. I have like a couple pieces in the works for The Stranger. But I also just I feel a little patient right now. I just feel like, all right, there's no need for me to like kind of throw my hat into any ring. I feel like a lot of rings are well taken care of. And I think white feminism right now is kind of one of the more, can be one of the more harmful groups.
Because of what? Privilege? Entitlement?
Because any oppressed group that sides in any way with the voice of the oppressor gives legitimacy to it in a way that, like, if a white man is like, but like it's
For
cool
sure.
that a woman stays in the kitchen, like everyone's like, yeah, well, fuck you, you don't know. But if a white woman says anything along those lines, or a white woman doesn't like totally align correctly or align us
Yeah.
in an aware way with.
No, I'm tracking with you. In a weird way, like a marginalized voice cannot be racist.
Racist or I don't think it means it like carries all the weight, but I do think that like, I think especially like white men tend to read, like if a white man like reads one of my pieces as a white woman, which he's more inclined to do. My name's Kathleen Tarrant. I sound white.
Okay.
So he's more inclined to read it, just like statistically.
Okay.
And if I give any credence or like any allowance for like anything transphobic, like homophobic or like racist, then like that's gonna solidify a lot more like ideas than like if another white man wrote it. Because it's like, well, if a woman thinks that, then it must be okay. Because again, like minority voices represent everybody, right? So if I'm the only exposure that like a white man has to a female voice, that's why I tend to be a little more careful, because I don't want to end up in that.
That's smart.
So I feel like I've been in a place of observation and listening for a while, just because I'm not really an expert on anything other than like pop music from like a very specific era, and then also bluegrass.
Right.
I'm like, or like, who wants to talk about John Fahey?
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about his Christmas record though. Like,
Trample my turtles harder.
do you make a Trampled by Turtles reference, but just like really poorly?
It didn't function that well.
It was so good though, because it was so bad. That's such a dad joke. Everyone, Galen's a dad.
Twice over.
Twice over? You did it twice. Only twice your whole life.
With my own Jennies.
Yeah. So as the only woman on this podcast so far, is there anything else you want to ask me? Just like specifically about being a woman?
No.
Do you want to ask about my period?
I think you covered it. I think you covered it.
Garrett, do you have anything to add?
Thank you for putting yourself in that vulnerable position, though. I appreciate that.
No, you're so nice.
No,
This
but
is
I
so
want to.
fun.
But I do want to know. About, I do want to. I don't know. Sort of. You don't have any insight necessarily on the direction you're going, but do you have a prediction about Seattle's music scene that you've loved and been involved in the past and enjoyed? And do you have a sense about it now?
I think Seattle, from what I've observed, I think Seattle hip hop is having a resurgence that I really love watching and feel like really excited about.
Kevin Stewart told me about Sleep Study. You heard of them?
No. The thing is, I'm not particularly, like, I've kind of been out of it a little bit on the new music front. Like, I've been doing a column on, like, bands in the past, and
Yeah.
so I haven't been as up on new music in Seattle, which is, like, a little embarrassing. But, like...
Hey, man, you're getting old.
I'm getting
Gotta
fucking old.
Give yourself a break.
You know what I mean?
29.
I'm fucking 29. I will say I've been listening to Do Normal for a couple years. My ex was really into Do Normal, and like it took me a little while, but I got really into her. She's an incredible like artist from around here, and
Cool.
I see a lot more like community spaces opening up, which is incredible. And like the punk scene on Capitol Hill is only getting stronger, which is awesome. Like Lisa Prank and Taco Cat and Chastity Belt, and
Cool.
our
Holding it
boyfriends are like holding it down and doing really well.
Still fighting that Maldives divide.
Oh, we're just bringing Jason into it. Just like, no, I think it's kind of incredible. I actually am just now kind of getting like the like energy back to like dive into new music in Seattle, which I'm really excited about.
Cool.
Yeah, like literally last week I was like, I wonder what other people are doing.
Totally.
Instead of just like listening to the same Fruit Bats record for millionth time in a row.
Until you die, and then starting to trade the live tapes via mail or whatever.
Oh my God, Fruit Bats tapes live.
Porter Ray.
Porter Ray
He's
is
cool.
great. Yeah, super great. The
Nice
new
guy.
Shabazz is great.
It's wild.
Yeah, fucking love that.
It's really good.
Yeah. Like there's so much. The thing is I feel like Seattle music is doing so well, and I feel in a weird way like cultural divides are becoming more of a conversation instead of a barrier. But I think the reason that that's happening is because there's so much crazy shit happening nationally, and in a weird way that like tech has become the new devil that we have to beat. That like any artist doing anything is much more connected.
Right.
When it was Mars Hill and they were like plucking people from the music community to kind of represent them, I feel like it created this weird like divide in the arts. And now that it's tech, like not a lot of Amazon bros are like jamming at Chop Suey.
Totally.
So I do feel like there's a little bit more camaraderie that you would have seen between like people like the Maldives, you know,
That's a good point.
who, and like, you know, maybe some of the punk artists. Like I feel like there's like there's much less cognitive dissonance than there would have been a few years ago, which I see as a positive. Like I love the Maldives' new record. I think it's
great.
Like Mad Lives. I think it's fucking awesome. And, you know, I like love everything that like is like the new, like some of the boyfriend stuff that's happening is fucking great. And I like can see them sharing a bill much more easily than I could have a few years ago, because
That's cool.
I feel like the city's changing so rapidly that like
They might fit on a bill together. Yeah.
And I don't love that there's always a bad guy, but like that now that the bad guy has kind of shifted to like kind of nebulous anti-creativity instead of like one dude at a church, I think it makes it a lot easier to like as like people in creative like industries kind of like come together and work together a little bit more, which is why I actually feel comfortable like moving to Vashon, because like I'm like, okay, like people will still be here, you know, like the city's not going to disappear. I don't know though, guys. Like it might. I don't know. I feel
In
weird.
2 months.
I love Seattle so much, but I don't
too.
know if it's going to be the place where I live forever the way it's going. I just don't know if I can afford it unless I like really.
We may have to adjust our expectations
Yep.
and decide what our priorities really are in investing in the city. And that may mean we can't buy houses. That may mean
Renting forever.
and just being involved in different ways
Oh boy.
and being okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, it's not really fine. It's you have to find happiness in the uncertainty, and that's impossible.
Yikes.
Seemingly, but
Don't get existential on me when it's like 11 p.m.
all right. Let's get you back to your packing.
I need to go sleepy now.
Enjoy Walden.
I need to go night-night.
I'll be here in civilization. You're holding it down when you're ready
You
to
guys
come
have
back.
to come do a camp out, please.
I would love to come out.
Bring your ladies. Actually, just send the ladies. I don't need you people.
Deal.